Anyway, let's get going. All right. I think we're live. I don't know. Oh, yeah, we're live. Okay. Good afternoon, folks. Welcome to SmudTalk number 16. We've been going a little crazy with the SmudTalks these past few days, but, technical problems aside, we're starting a bit later because of these things. So, hey, why Castlevania Season 3 is garbage. Now, we're going to talk about Castlevania in general. I was having problems with getting the right video to watch, but we're going to be talking about Castlevania as not just a TV series or a cartoon series, but as a video game series, as an entertainment medium, because it's more than just a few games and a few DS games and a few stories and comic books and what have you. It's really touched a nerve with a lot of people. And you either really, really like it, you're like, it's a game, side-scrolling thing, and stuff happens in a 3D world as well. And someone translated it to an anime adaptation. Oh, that's not... So everyone has their own different opinion.
Not an anime.
Yeah, well, okay, fine. I consider it an anime, but other people don't. That's fine.
Why?
Because it's animated. Looks good.
Okay.
I mean, it's as much of an anime. It's as much of an anime as Avatar is an anime, which is 0.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. I mean, if you want to use animation, literally, yes, it is an animation, but I don't really care.
Agree to disagree. That's just my take on it.
All right. I mean,
It's just by animation style, it has more Western or US elements than it has Asian elements.
Yeah, the style of it you can definitely say is influenced by anime at least a little bit, but it's not anime exactly.
Yeah, it's this the studio that made Avatar. I don't know if that made anything before that, but that style that adapted elements from anime.
Yeah, it definitely took bits and pieces from the anime style and to incorporate it with what they already had.
Yeah, and they then put out a lot of other cartoons that use this style of animation. That is a westernized variant, maybe, or how do you say this? Because it's in a way it's an imitation of certain elements. It morphs with how cartoons depict facial expressions and joins that together in some weird amalgamation with how anime does weird faces and facial expressions and emotional expressions, stances. But it's all very janky. It's all very it doesn't really capture the Asian style, because the Asian style is either still aesthetic when it's completely over the top, or it's subtle. But this US style is always within a very weird framework that, for me, it never goes anywhere, and it looks artificial and fake. Like it whoever came up with it, and especially in the cheaper cartoons, never really understood how to convey all these emotions properly. And it's just this an imitation of cartoonishness and anime. Like, you don't do one fully. You need to do at least one all the way.
Anyway,
I don't know how to better put this into words.
To bring
you
it
see
back,
this when they make goofy faces.
To bring it back to the gaming series, I think my first experience with Castlevania started with at a friend's place. He was playing some weird game, which I didn't quite understand. It looked rather difficult to play, and that ended up being Simon's Quest, which was Castlevania 2. And that was one of the more brutal games of the series, believe it or not, even though it's one of the first ones. So I don't know. I don't know why it was designed that way. I don't know why they made it so ridiculously complicated.
Patching it through.
Because back then in the gaming industry, companies didn't think that if they did more of the same, but with more new stuff, that they wouldn't be able to engage audiences again. So they did, for second games like Mario 2, Zelda 2, Castlevania 2, and others, they just did something completely different just to shake things up. But then by the third game, they realized, hey, more of the same, just with extra bells and whistles, is more worth it in the end. And it was more or less with the second games at that time. It was a learning curve.
Well, it was interesting with the third game, because that's where I owned a Nintendo, and that's where I thought, wow, this is such a well thought out experience. And you have all these pathways. There's not just one way to get to the castle. And there's some pathways where you just have to go back. You go up to the clock tower. It's like, oh, well, there's just Grant here. I guess we're done. I guess we got to go all the way back. So there's one of these wonderful options of swapping characters on the fly. And all these ridiculous giant pendulums you have to jump across. And these crazy Medusa heads that turn you stone. You fall to your death. So all kinds of wonderful, funny, crazy, not as annoying as Simon's Quest, where it was just brutally hard, but lots of platform jumps that you had to make that were hard to do. And once you got Grant, it was like, oh, Grant is amazing.
Yeah. Grant was definitely a sign of things to come for the series in terms of gameplay, and also the reason why 3 was so much harder for us compared to like Japan is because the only change we got to the gameplay was that the damage output from enemies was jacked up to 11 for us for God knows what reason.
The great thing about Grant, though, is he was the only character I could think of in the series that would wall climb. Like, he could just climb any surface pretty much. Like, he was Spider-Man. It was amazing. So he jumped.
He's the only one, yeah.
Yeah, he was jumped like twice the height of everyone else. He had a little dagger, so his damage output was bad, but he could just go anywhere. It was fantastic. And
the change that would definitely carry over to the rest of the series after at least Symphony of the Night was controlling yourself in midair, which is a godsend at that point.
Jumping and then going, yeah, I think I'll jump to the left after I jump to the right. Yeah, he was the first guy.
To the left. Take the back now, y'all.
Yeah. So the other two characters in the game, which everyone knows from the series, is Sifa and Alucard. And it's actually the same setup with Sifa. She is stoned by a Cyclops, and you have to free her after you kill the Cyclops. And with Alucard, I think you just find him. I think he was just there somewhere. I can't recall the exact.
No, you fight him. You do fight him.
Oh, really? Okay. All right.
Yeah. The way to get him is you direct, like, it's like Grant, but unlike with Grant, it's like Alucard's just using more of his power against you.
Okay. And the great thing about Sifa and Alucard, like, they all have their own unique abilities, and Sifa's was to command spells. So she had a fire or a flame tongue. She had an ice spell, which was just awesome. You could freeze the entire water of a level. That was so cool.
The orb.
Well, the lightning orb was just cheap. That was like cheat mode. Like, you just cast that spell. It's like a heat-seeking lightning orb spell of three of these orbs. They just kill anything on the screen. You're like, what the hell? This is ridiculous.
It is.
But you bring her to fight death at the end. It's just an easy mode. You just press up and B, and she just crushes everything. So, and with Alucard, all you got was the turn into a bat and fly around a level. And I think his attack was really weak. It was like 3 fireball in 3 directions.
Yeah, it was a much weaker version of Dracula's fireball attack from the end of the game.
Yeah, it was kind of like, this guy's not that great. I mean, he just flies around as a bat, which sucks up all your hearts while you're flying. And that was it. You're like, okay, he's not as good as Grant. Grant is nimble. And you could jump and move really quickly. And Alucard just a big target. You're like, oh, okay.
Yeah. But then again, it's like, as we would see in a couple games later, he would eventually get elevated into this godlike status that, honestly, no other character since has ever reached compared to him.
Right, but we're talking about a good, I don't know, it must have been at least a 10-year, maybe 7 or 8 year span before we got to, what was it called in the Japanese version? Akumojo Dracula X Nocturne in the Moonlight or something like that. Yeah, so that was like 7 but between those 7 years there was Super Castlevania on the Super Nintendo with the Whip Wave. There was Kid Dracula, which I didn't even know what the hell that was about.
There was Bloodlines on the Genesis.
Right. Then what was it called? I was going to say Rondo of Blood. I think that's the one.
That's the next one. That's the next one after Bloodlines. Yes.
Yeah. So there was all these other games that people remember playing, and they were just fun. They were just simple arcadey, side-scrolling games. But when we got to the one everyone remembers, which is Castlevania, which came out the same year as Final Fantasy VII, which is 1997, it just blew our expectations away.
Symphony, correct?
This was Symphony. Yeah, this is the game that put Koji Igarashi on the map. And wow, we had no idea Alucard was a giant pretty boy with the revenge complex to save his dad.
Yeah.
It's like, whoa, Japan, you're waking up to something here. What's going on? So fantastic, smooth as silk animation. One of the, I wouldn't say the best OST out of a video game series, but just so ethereal and atmospheric and cool.
Yeah, Symphony, if anything, was definitely a culmination of the entire series up to that point, and it paid off.
And you have like lore from dozens of writers, like Tolkien for sure, Gene Wolfe for sure. You had all these crazy items in mythology or enemies from mythology from not only Europe, but Japan and China, just all kinds of beasts. And it just is littered levels of just different puzzles and enemies to fight and the Frankenstein monster and all kinds of fun stuff. So fun, crazy action adventure with voice acting for some weird reason. I don't know. Voice acting was a thing. None of these.
Robert Belgrade is one of the best voices in the series, without a doubt. I will take no shit about that.
Oh yeah, he's great. But it's just strange because none of these games really had anything to do with story. It was just big, scary monster castle. Go blow stuff up and do so in a fun.
There was story. It was just never the focus until that point.
That's why when we jump to the animation, it's like, oh, they gave them personality.
Animated show is fine. I think that's probably easier than say the animation.
The Netflix show, yeah. The show is so like, whoa, they're talking. Like this is an interpretation of Alucard. This is an interpretation of Trevor. Here's Sifa. I wasn't expecting Sifa to act like that. I don't think anyone was, or look like that. So
really, no.
So it was really a treat for fans of the series because we weren't expecting this level of detail, even if the detail felt off, or the setting felt weird, or the villains felt a little, I don't know, melodramatic at times. But
straightforward.
When you get to season 3, yeah, everything is kind of like, whoa, this is so many characters. Like, what's happening? So the first season I thought was the best, and it's sort of moved itself into its own flavor, its own experience, which not too many people were happy about. But as a whole, if you're not thinking about it, it's entertaining. It's Castlevania. It's fun to watch. So I try not to think about it too much. But we are here to look at the third season, which is probably the most controversial. Divisive? Yeah, I think divisive is the best term because of what it does to the characters, what it does to the villains, and some plot lines, which just like they combined the Grand Falloon from Symphony of the Night, which I thought was really cool. But it's like, okay, that is just too big. It's just gigantic human body sphere.
I mean, question: Do they call it Grand Falloon like they did in Symphony, or did they use the later name of Legion?
No, they don't. They don't call it either. It's just.
I don't think it's.
Oh, they just show it without any other context. Oh, okay.
Well, they kind of have been setting it up they set it up for a while, but they don't give it a name, no.
Yeah, which is kind of...
Or at least they set it up through the season.
I'm betting on Legion.
I found it a bit rough to brew, and that...
True.
But I think that they did the connection between the 3D games, which was on the PlayStation, I believe. What was it? Curse of Darkness.
Yes.
Curse of Darkness with Hector.
Yeah, Curse of Darkness being a direct sequel to 3.
Yeah, which I thought was brilliant because if you're going to have a castle that's been being recreated every so often, you're going to have to put stuff in that castle. So you're going to have some sort of person who makes the creatures. Like, hey, that's cool. I was thinking of having like an architect who would actually build the rooms. And he was this crazy dude who had this, I don't know, flamboyant style of making certain places. But you had these two guys who made creatures for everyone, which I thought was kind of cool.
Hector and Isaac.
And they gave him a revenge plot. It was like, oh my God, this is kind of neat. And you could play a game where you can forge your own monsters and they could level up with you in an RPG. I thought, hey, you know what? That's cool. I didn't really get into that because I never played those games very much, but it's Castlevania. It felt and sounded like Castlevania. Obviously, it was a different experience than Symphony and all the other DS games that came out. But
yes,
it felt the same, which I thought was good. The thing that did not feel the same to me was Curse of Innocence or whatever the hell it was called.
Lament of Innocence.
Lament of Innocence. I thought that was just.
Then again, that one is the series prequel, so of course it was going to definitely feel off in a lot of places, but it does still fit.
That's the main problem with pretty much all prequels. It's very rare that you find a prequel that doesn't feel slightly off. I think the main exception to this is Better Call Saul. It's kind of the only one I can think of off the top of my head that threads this needle.
Yeah.
That's definitely a good assessment, yeah.
All right, so I think we could say we enjoyed the series as an animation. So what's your main problems with this series? For me, it's the characterization, just because everyone is sort of this serious, kind of cocksure, funny, swarmy character. They're sort of, they realize they're living in crap or whatever the setting is like, and they're joking around. And for me, Sifa was the main one that I did not like, just because the game gave us their own version. We had versions of Sifa's children or family lineage throughout the games. And I thought, okay,
Yes.
this is not my Sifa. This is someone's interpretation of Sifa, which did not sit totally right with me. But she was still entertaining. She was still goofy, and I thought, all right, fine. It's still something better than nothing.
That ain't Falco.
Oh, okay.
Never mind.
Trevor was decent. I don't think he was perfect, but they got the basic idea there. He's just a big, gruff guy who, down on his luck, doesn't know what he's doing.
I mean, in my mind, that it makes sense considering at this point in the main series, since Leon's adventure, the Belmonts have been exiled for like 500 years. So it would make sense for him to have that kind of attitude towards the rest of the world, kinda.
Yeah, it just...
For me, like, I think that, like, just the actor does it well, but sometimes, like, the jokes are very modern. I will definitely agree with that.
So, yeah.
Like, I think this joke killed me, but I totally see, like, the anachronism of it. Like, when he starts drinking, he says, "This is better than sex, better than sex."
Yeah. That was funny. But it also shows how overpowered and crazy weird Sifa is, that she can instantly freeze a mug of ale. And it just pisses, like, why would you do that to someone? Like, come on, he likes beer. Like, what's wrong with that? She's like, no, you can't like beer.
Oh, I think it's just because she's like, "Oh, so I'm not that good? Okay, fine."
It's a bit childish, but yeah, I know.
Yeah, that's kind of the thing of, like, even, like, the good stuff these days, like, there's ever so slightly a bit of childishness in there.
Yeah.
But then you say just read Warren Ellis, and you'll understand where it comes from. So it's not unheard of. But I generally liked
Indeed.
the dialogue. I wasn't too pissed off with it. The subplots with the vampires, I'm like, where are they going with this? They're gonna start a war, and they're gonna get Hector to start shaping creatures for this. Like, oh my god, this is gonna be nuts. While Isaac is just, oh my god, he's just going off on his own tangent who knows what.
He's gone nuts.
I mean,
he's kind of becoming he's kind of developed a god complex, it seems.
I mean, that isn't too far off from how Isaac is in Curse of Darkness.
Oh.
So at least they got that right.
Isaac in Curse of Darkness is just a weird punk murdering lunatic, so I don't know. I actually like the Netflix version better because, well, first off, there's actual plot with Isaac aside from I killed your wife, you know. So it's kind of like, all right.
I mean, sure. Oh, I mean, point granted. Point granted.
Yeah, he's like this religious fanatic in the show.
I
where
like
he's
that.
like, which is I think is really good as well. Like, I really like Isaac as a character, and like season 3 actually has a really good arc for him where he's just like where he slowly becomes a warlord after like building this giant army of demons.
I mean, that would just give the show an excuse to just have Trevor go full hog Belmont with the whip, just start bashing everything in his way.
They
would have helped if they had left out the pretentious monologues he's giving people before killing them.
Oh, Isaac?
Monologues.
If I remember that right. No, not Trevor. Isaac.
Isaac.
It depends if you're talking about season 2, I believe, where he's talking. We're still in season 3.
When he starts to go on his journey and with his monsters and talks to the captain, for example, and then just has this endless pseudo-philosophical tirade that has clear errors in it, and in a way, I never know, is it bad writing that the conclusions of this character are completely bonkers, or is that on purpose because that explains his logic, his internal logic errors explain why he's doing the bad stuff instead of coming around.
I saw it as intentional.
Yeah, he obsesses and worships Dracula. He's also a man of faith, so he's got this weird contradiction about what's the right thing to do. So it's like, I'm religious.
Definitely has a sadomasochism thing going on too.
Oh yeah, he's messed up, like, for sure. And they show a little bit of his backstory and what happened to him, which is like, okay, that kind of makes some sense because he was pretty much destroyed as a child. But that was the most interesting character for me out of all of the plots. With Alucard, it was just like, oh, this is not good.
with it's like kind of like, oh, there's these two people that want to learn things, and then for
message coming in
reasons they turn on him.
It was
question mark
odd. They saw everything as related to vampires as bad, even though he's saying, he's my dad. I stopped him. I want to bring peace to the world. And they turn on him. It's like, why? Why would you do that?
Yeah, like while like having sex is just okay.
Their reasoning was, you're hiding things from us. It's like, so he's an ancient vampire who's lived longer than you. Of course, he's not going to tell you everything.
Yeah, and he's helping you kick Dracula's ass either way. So whatever.
What is he's helping you? Like, why would you turn on him? It's just a strange plot twist. I was like, that's dumb.
That is definitely out of character.
I thought that was I did not like that at all. Plus, it was basically just a slice of life.
And then he impales both of them.
That was great.
Outside of the walls.
That was my favorite part. It's like, oh yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah, it's like
finally they die. Thankfully, they're dead.
Like as different as the show is from the games, it's like it's like I know when to make the separation, but it's like historically, we know his intentions. It's like whether it's from one source or another, so it just makes no sense for them to turn on him like that.
I did like the fact that he was kind of going stir crazy, but at the same time, when we go back to Symphony of the Night and we look at all the interactions with the beasts, like the fairy or the fairies, they all see him as a friend, as a master. The librarians, I don't know what the hell, there's a undead librarian running around. Like, that would have been fun to have him in the castle saying, "Oh, Master Alucard, what are you doing here? I've gotten all your books together." Like, something ridiculous like that would have been awesome. But the fact that he's...
Yeah, only helps him fend off his dad when he gets paid.
Yeah, if you pay him, he'll help you. Yeah, something like that would be great. But the fact that he was going stir crazy, it's like you have this magical castle. I'm sure some of it is sentient, that you have controlled. Like, you're in control of the castle. I'm sure.
No, it straight up is kind of sentient. To quote Symphony, it's like the castle is a creature of chaos, and it may take many incarnations.
Right. So I was hoping for, the boatman to pop up, the librarian, the fairies, the imps, the sword.
Because they've all been known to, even in Symphony itself, the implication is that they've all existed for forever.
Right. They're spiritual beings. Like, the sword was this concept of there's some spirit within the sword. It's not just a magical blade, although that's how he treated it as. It's like, no, it's a living thing, and it grows with you. And they didn't play with that at all. And I was like, oh, that's kind of sad. That would have been nice to have.
That sucks.
Definitely a missed opportunity.
Oh, yeah. But the mirror room, there's all these wonderful levels. The elevators, the crazy dungeon, like that was the Colosseum. Just amazing places. They sort of run through them a bit. The clock tower, not the clock tower, but clocks or gears. It's like, oh, you're just, it's not, you're doing just the level. You're just doing the background. Like, give us a little bit more in there. And they never go all the way. And that's what kind of makes me go, oh, what a missed opportunity.
Yeah, the potential in regards to the castle is definitely pretty much limitless, I guess.
But at least
in terms of what they can pull from the games to, like, as a reference or maybe for plot.
In general, I liked how they played around with the Vampire Court of Dracula. That I found somewhat interesting. Yeah. But when it later went outside the rails with the, for example, with this quartet of vampire women that were this sex-crazed cat lady club, that felt oddly written. Are those real characters in the series? Because you are the Castlevania nerds.
Just Carmilla. There's only one major female vampire. It's Carmilla. The other ones I don't know.
So they're likely made up.
I'm flaking on the one from Bloodlines. That's another one that in the Castlevania version of history, she killed Duke Ferdinand and started World War One. I'm flaking on the name right now, but that is another significant character in the lore.
Are you implying she's a cross-dressing Serbian communist?
Yeah, that is what she's based on, kinda. No, I'm serious. That is what that character is based on in terms of, like, the real world reference. Hold on, I'll look it up.
That was the point of the joke. But yeah,
Carmilla, I quite love hearing Peter Stormare in anything, and I quite liked seeing him turn up here. I was kind of disappointed when he gets killed off. But I do think that, like, I really like Carmilla, both like the actress playing her and the character herself. She's very, very interesting.
All right. Okay, let's get started with the video. We've been talking for about half an hour. May as well get going. Joe Crazy, thank you. It looks more like something DC would produce.
You know what? Yeah, actually, at least modern DC animated movies.
They have good backgrounds now.
Character models and it. I think, like, in character models and background, both.
Kinda, yeah.
I find the character models are horrible. The models are okay-ish, but the animations are horrible. That's where personally I think this Castlevania cartoon falls flat. They have these amazing, breathtaking backgrounds and skies, even the lighting is great, and then you have these cheap-looking animations popped into that. To me, it looks disjointed. Like they didn't even out where they put their money, and because I love this high quality background work, but I'd much more prefer if the quality level, the visual quality level, would be balanced so that it looks more like something that fits together. I'm lacking a word here. More like it's all made of one thing, like the Lupin, the later Lupin seasons and movies. They had amazing backgrounds, breathtaking detail. Like you had perspective shots from above of a cathedral in France with amazing lighting, sparkling water, and all this intricate detail. And while the Lupin characters have this soft style to them, they still don't look misplaced in this high detail. Somehow, I can't exactly say what it is. I think it's mainly the rough animation. Lupin is smoothly animated. Here it's this rough, low frame rate and lacking in between frames animation that makes it just out of place for me. And yeah, I would have liked much more if they did that, especially in action-heavy scenes, like the Alucard fight in the end of was that season 2?
Yeah, season 2, I think.
Yeah, and because they can do high frames. They can do high frame rate animations, like when Cypher is turning off the page of a large old book in the Belmont archive, and that is suddenly looks like it's 30 frames or above. That she's just turning a page. It looks beautiful. Looks like from some old Disney movie, and then it goes back to these Yankee 3 frames per second. I move my arm across the whole room while I'm talking, and it's just, what the fuck just happened? And when you do the boss fight at this 3 frames style instead of the 60 frames that maybe you also 30 frames that maybe you should, well, it's 24. Then I think the focus of quality is not where it should be.
It depends.
That is what throws me off.
It depends on which boss fight. I actually did not like the season 3 fight with the 2 whips. He pulls out. Trevor pulls out 2 whips. You're like, okay, this is getting a little crazy, because the reach on the whips are so far, and they're so destructive, and the thing is like healing itself or whatever. Like this is getting kind of silly, and there's so much destruction. You're just like, okay, this is. And Scythe was a freaking god. Like she could just do all this stuff with ice and fire and lightning, and you're like, okay, this is over the top. But I guess people like watching that kind of stuff, so I'm like, all right, fine. But I did not like this sort of Lord of Darkness style of fighting that we saw in the games, which is over the top, God of War style, spinning chains. Like, oh god, this is nuts. So no elegance, no skill, just swing your whip like. Although he does have some techniques, which I do appreciate, but that's kind of the cool stuff I liked about it, because when you think of having a whip or a bullwhip, the thing itself is just a piece of leather. But when you smack it and it goes really fast, you can like lop an arm off if you're accurate. So he's doing all these tricks with his fingers and spinning it around against Alucard. Like, how the hell is he going to stop Alucard? It's like, oh, that's how. Okay. But Alucard overpowers him and what have you, which is in first season. So sometimes it's great. Sometimes it makes me go, well, I don't know.
Yeah, it's a mixed bag either way.
Yeah, for sure. So here's not Alfarius.
At least I kind of like don't have a problem with like, it's just awful and not working at all. We just kind of have like little bits of, be better.
For the most part, I think the fighting is done reasonably well. It looks good in most places. Some of it could be a lot better, but that's like, all right, fine. They take their liberties and they try to showcase comedy at certain times so they don't have to focus on action too much, which they did a lot of in season 2 with the Belmont Trove or whatever gets attacked. It's like, okay, that's a little silly, but that's fine. I don't mind it too much. Anyway, let's keep going. Not Alfarius. Isaac might be a genocidal monster, but at least he's not rude. Ah, do you guys remember that scene? everywhere he goes, I think except the pirate king dude or the pirate captain, everyone else is completely like horrible to him.
That can easily make a good villain. That can make a villain very likable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
Also,
Gustavo Fring in Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. It's a good example of that.
Yeah, the only time when he's rude is I think when he like just is threatening Walter in his final season. I think season 4, I believe.
Yeah, he's a complete monster, but he will still write you a birthday card and send you flowers.
Yeah.
On the day he'll murder you.
Oh, anyway, let's get started. This is the Nerd Network. He has 57 subs. This came out September 2020. It has 1,360 views. Sorry, 1,360 views. It has the like and dislike bar turned off, as well as comments.
Aww.
So obviously,
that's very.
So obviously,
it's a good sign.
Obviously, people downvoted this thing, and all the fans are like, "No, it's great, it's amazing." So that's what you get.
Ratioed it to hell.
Yeah.
Netflix and pretty much every other streaming service on the internet has their own streaming platform originals, which draw people into the service. Netflix has a huge surplus of these because no matter how bad the original is, Netflix still needs to keep up with other streaming services, even when those shows dive bomb in quality. One of the worst examples of this is Castlevania. Now, before you jump into the comments and call me petty for not liking the series, you should probably listen to what I have to say. Castlevania had a decent start. It was short, sweet, and hooked almost everyone who was watching it, including me. Sadly, that is no longer the case, and I would rather watch the Star Wars prequels and sequels before I watch another minute of this.
Okay, that is pushing.
Wow!
My God,
that burns.
Wow, wow! I would like vehemently disagree. Like the Star Wars prequels are definitely worse than this.
So people who hate.
Same with the sequels.
Yeah, people who hate Castlevania, the anime or animation, are fans of Castlevania or fans of animation. They have certain standards, they have certain expectations that aren't being met, and they don't like the interpretation or the adaptation. So we understand that. I understand that as a Castlevania fan. There's lots of things I didn't get to see, lots of things they could have done. There were weird sort of hidden things, like when you go to in season 2, if you look at the stuff on the racks and the bookcases, there's all these hidden stuff. If you know the games that they put in there, that you go, oh, this is from Symphony of the Night, and this is from this, and this is from like that's you have to pay attention.
Yeah, but that is fun.
Yeah, it's just for the hell of it, but it's not enough to be part of a characterization or the plot or an ornament or whatever. It's just there in the background. So it's like, oh, okay, cool. So they could have included more, but they didn't, and they had the opportunity, which is kind of sad. So, and it's really one of those things where you have to freeze the frame and like take a screenshot and go, what is that? Oh, it's the skull of an enemy from Castlevania 2. Like, oh.
Now I know what you're. How could Castlevania 3 be that bad? It's because of a spider's web of problems that started as far back as Season 1. And now I'm going to tell you so I don't have to one-sided argument that the group chat can't interrupt me and can call me petty before I can properly explain what's wrong. Let's begin, shall we? I'll start my first point by reminding you of a very unpleasant memory, but one that I need to talk about. Fantastic Beasts 2, The Crimes of Grindelwald.
Why?
I remember seeing it in theaters and thinking to myself how dull and uninteresting it was. After all, it had some...
Okay.
I'm confused.
Because they're both prequels, and Fantastic Beasts 2 is kind of notorious in terms of how, like, franchise interest killing it was. Like, even in terms of, like, fan outrage, The Crimes of Grindelwald has basically has had very little other than this is poorly structured, as opposed to the ongoing, like, trashing that TLJ gets.
But what does that have to do with Castlevania?
I don't know. I think it's just because, like one of those notorious bad movies at this point, where it's just like, wow, the structure of this movie is totally bonkers. The plot makes no sense, and the people writing this, or the person writing this, Joe Rowling, doesn't really know how screenwriting structure works.
Yeah, but I have my beef with Castlevania, but it's not that bad. So
yeah, I totally agree.
I'm looking forward to see what's going on here.
Overall, it had some good character interactions, pretty special effects, that one cool ribbon lion, set up for the next... Oh wait, that was it. One of the many problems with Fantastic Beasts 2 is how the whole story was just setting up other movies. Because of this, whole movie lost a lot of meat from its bones and it lost a lot of entertainment value as a result. Yes, Jack, this was targeted specifically at you. Why am I reminding you of this? Well, it's because Castlevania Season 3 is all set up. Hey, we have problem. What is it? We don't have the corpses for the Forge Master to turn into lazy monsters. What should we do? Don't worry.
Question to the Castlevania nerds. This character here, the big one, is she in the games?
I don't think so.
Okay, because it took me forever to figure out whether this is...
What was her name again?
I don't know. Whether this is... I saw it last year, so I don't remember. But whether this is... Oh, this is supposed to be a woman!
Oh, the big beefy one, yeah.
Yeah, because this is the thing that before in the green room you said that the Castlevania show does not have the nowadays political influence stuff in it, but with the additional characters they put in these with these vampire ladies, that's where I think that token diversity shtick is coming in, because I watched the show and thought like, okay, I may not know the games, but this looks off, because what I know from Japanese character design, game making, and everything, they don't do it this way. If they want to introduce characters that are a bit off the normal tropey route, and Castlevania is tropey inside its or rather in its own, within its own style, these characters don't fit into that, and this is the medieval royal mysticism stuff. That's not where you put in these completely hyper unique characters that play around with sexual stereotypes. And especially Season 3 has some of that.
At least they're the bad guys, and they're like seen as like, oh, they are totally morally reprehensible. I honestly think that like that actually like would probably make a lot of what people like scream and tear their hair out.
Not actually. They like the bad characters. They like it when the characters they can identify with are the bad guys. For some reason, they like being the villains. However, What I remember from season 3 is that these villain women vampires are also incompetent. They are very powerful, but in their scheming, they are also incompetent. Like the head lady of that troop, forgot her name. She even has to reprimand them to not act like chicken on in a hen house, and make up again so that they can finally work on the actual plot to take over this land. So that was it. That was at least an interesting jab, I think. That was that I didn't expect that one, because that shows that these women can't even work together. But that's on the other hand a general trope you have going on in anything that has to do with vampires. Vampire the Masquerade is the best example of that, where everyone schemes against everyone else. That's something that you often see in vampire stories, whichever universe you have. But I'm getting a bit sidetracked here.
Hey, we have problem. What is it? We don't have the corpses for the Forge Master to turn into lazy monsters. What should we do? Don't worry, we'll deal with that in season 4. It's sad, because that's barely even a joke. That right there is pretty much how the conversation goes down between the big vampire lady and Carmilla. You can tell why I'm upset about this, right? This season wastes most of what it could be by setting up some grand finale, instead of telling a possibly exciting story. In fact, the showrunners have a harder time keeping the world alive than they do telling a story that makes you want to keep watching.
This isn't more of an argument based off pacing, because there's so many stories happening at once, and it builds up to the climax, and it just sort of happens that way, that everything happens to occur at the same time. But I mean, that's fine. I don't really care that the buildup is slow. I don't care that their plans have to take another season or another year to come up to fruition. Like, it doesn't really bother me. If we're going for that sort of experience, like we're going for years and years of this continuing on, like who knows how long, but that's the setup. So pacing isn't an issue, but it comes to a climax. So I'm not too concerned about it.
Yeah. It does have a climax in the church. It's just kind of it's a slow climax in a lot of ways.
Yeah, that's part of the one character's, what's her name? I don't remember her name. The seductive young little vampire daughter or vampire sister who manages...
The one who...
Yeah,
Isaac? Is it Hector?
She charms Hector, and she has sex with him and manages to control him and put that ring on him. Like, that's the whole thing. That's the whole setup for his plot, is for him to come under their control so they can control him, to build their army. It's like, you did it. You figured it out. She's brilliant. She's an evil, crazy witch. Like, okay, great. Takes time. That's fine. It's just a slow story. And you're like, oh, okay.
I don't expect you to understand my last argument, but I do expect you to listen to this. The night creatures are some of the most dumb monsters ever made. It started in season 1 when the night creatures started to terrorize Wallachia. These monsters had clearly been sent from hell, and how it teased that there were these awesome monsters when the stone cyclops was introduced, with how you need to make it realize it was dead before it was beaten, even though the show contradicted itself by just stabbing it in the eye. Even with only 3 monsters, the night creature, vampire, and stone cyclops, the show felt like it was going to have an awesome and immersive world with cool monsters. Then season 2 came along and gave us all these other looks for the same monster. Well, since season 2 did well, the showrunners decided to take this and dial it up to 11. None of the night creatures look like they did in season 1, and this is a problem. By making the night creatures all these monsters so diverse, it loses the identity of the night creature as well as every other monster in the world. Now, how do we tell a stone cyclops from a regular night creature? Are they the same? If that's the case, why does the stone cyclops have such specific requirements for killing it? What about the vampires? Are those night creatures too? This is awful.
I'm not, this is not a major problem.
Not really.
Not really a problem either. Yeah, this is just a personal preference thing.
The 2 beasts at the start there, those were there Sliga and Gamora? What the hell?
Slagra.
Slagra, yeah. They're one of the first bosses in Symphony of the Night.
Yeah, and in the end game of Super 4, actually.
Yeah. So that's like, that was easy to pick up on for any fan of Symphony. But they should have.
Yeah, and then we just saw there the Ox, the Minotaur from Rondo.
Yeah, so like this is what you want to do. You want to have because there's so many creatures. Like there's hundreds. So you want to do that. And with these guys, I would say, I can't really identify them very well, but that's not like you don't have to use every single beast in the bestiary just because you can. The artists and the designer can do whatever they like, and that's fine. But they're not supposed to have character. They're not supposed to have personality. They're just random creatures because he's making an army of them. You don't need like every single foot soldier has to have a name. Like that scene where he's talking to one of the undead at the fire pit, and he's saying, "I used to have a wife and this and that," and he's like that was cool. I wasn't expecting that. I thought that was a great scene. So to do that, but that's what we wanted with the stuff we knew because we were expecting like, oh, the librarian, that would have been perfect, or the boatman or whatever, that would have been neat. But they created their own characters. They're allowed to do that. That's totally fine. It's great.
I think it does help when you have all these different creatures that you have the different individuals do a specific thing here and there. Otherwise, it's just this entourage of misfits that's just shadowing behind the character.
Right. There's no strategy. There's no tactics. I'm the guy with the pointy fingers. I'm the guy with the spear nose. I'm the guy with this wielding 3 swords because I have 3 arms. Like, it's just random shit. Yeah. But with him, he's sort of using it as cannon fodder anyway. They're just his army. He doesn't really care.
Team Rocket.
Yeah, I just throw stuff at stuff.
And to call out like the Cyclops specifically, it's like if you have the know-how from the games, you know that's the thing you have to kill to free Sifa in the first place.
Yeah, so that fits together, and
yeah,
that is a boss fight I liked, even though some things happened a lot off screen that was a bit of a letdown. But in general, I like that thing way more than the fight against Alucard, because there you also see a big difference in animation quality if you put these two against each other.
Yeah.
So I was fine with the choreography in the Alucard fight, but not the animation quality. That looked like they were just showing me the storyboard, and not an actual animation. Like, here's this frame, now he's standing there, while being mid-movement, and and the problem here is when you have all these different characters, that is really tedious to draw and to animate. And I understand that the quality here then takes a drop, because these are also not key scenes in the story. The more detail you have, the harder something to animate. This is something we could bring up about problems in Legend of Korra versus Last Airbender, because they put way too much detail on Korra to put much focus on good animation. When you have your main character, you don't want to have too much detail on it.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm getting sidetracked.
Do you think the one thing with this show is that I think it's shown to HBO that you can do an animated Game of Thrones project, which is definitely going to be something in the future, which I think is a good thing all in all, because it will lead to an easier reboot in the future with actual writers and not a pair of con men who had no credentials.
The writer conman problem we have all over the place, including in animation, as we know from all these weird cartoons. And but in general, yeah, I would say that's definitely an argument. If
I kind of argued.
if you could get off the child diseases that Castlevania has, and make something consistent all over the place in quality, you could make a good. I can see a good Game of Thrones thing in this style. Yeah.
World building that rips people out of the narrative. A world, especially a fantasy one, needs to follow rules that determine how the world works. If a world doesn't follow rules, it becomes a sloppy mess that becomes even harder to immerse yourself in. Because of the lack of guidelines of what...
Okay, wait a second. We're talking about him...
Wait, there are... All he needs is a body and his knife.
Yeah, like that was already set up, so we know how it works. And his magic blade, the same with Hector. He has the same technique. Yeah, he's got a whatever. Okay. Right. So they both have the same technique. It works that way. As long as it's dead, he can bring it back to life. So
yes,
it's fine.
Once it's dead, it's dead.
Yeah.
As far as I can remember.
A night creature can and should be, we now know that this world has no rules holding it together, and thus only further throws this show into the long list of bad video game adaptations. The monsters could have been so much
I'd say it's a mediocre to slightly good video game adaptation. If you want bad video game adaptation, watch Hollywood movies.
Watch Warcraft or the Mortal Kombat movies.
No, wait.
Warcraft movie, I mean, almost
out of all of the, okay, let's be fair. I'm gonna be fair. Out of all of the bad, like, Hollywood video game adaptations before Detective Pikachu and Sonic, by technicality, the first MK movie was the best one. By technicality.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was just a straight up, like a, if anything basic, yet still kind of accurate adaptation of just Mortal Kombat 1. It was Annihilation that was really shit.
If you want to watch something bad, watch the Dungeons and Dragons movie.
I agree with you on that.
There was one of these evil ball masters.
Rain from the sky.
I saw that as a young teen in the cinema because I thought, Dungeons and Dragons movie, that was cool, I want to see that. Went into the cinema and I hated it.
Yeah,
I was an early teen and I knew what is this garbage? I rather watch Mario Brothers again.
Whoa.
Yeah,
and at least was creative.
At least you have Jeremy Irons, who knows exactly what kind of movie he's in, and just says, "Alrighty, I don't care. I can just do whatever the crap I want, and the director's not gonna tell me no. I'm getting paid to have."
Exactly. I'm gonna get paid either way.
Paid to be nuts. Great.
In regards to Castlevania here, we only see the animation here in the background when Isaac was talking, and here you can see something very specific and very unique to this style of Western animation, and that is during the dialogue or monologue. The mouth is animated quite accurately throughout, but you have the character himself is still, talks for about a sentence or two, and then makes one relatively fast movement into another pose, then talks for 3 seconds more, and another fast movement into another still pose. And this is going on, and sometimes these are really, really big movements. Here, this is almost okay, but if you watch for this, because you will probably use other scenes from Castlevania where this happens, you can see this in Legend of Korra. You can see this in, oh god, I don't know, that I made one of these fairy girl cartoons in this style.
Fairy Tail
Club?
No. Fairy Tail is an anime. Winx, I think. I don't know.
Yeah, Winx. Yeah, I said Winx. Yeah, they just barely made a live-action remake of that.
And it sucks.
Yeah, I bet it does. Yeah, but all these cartoons that use this style, they all do this. These talk for a bit, make Yankee movement, remain in that, keep on talking, another Yankee movement. And this always pulls me out. I can't unsee it. And maybe now you can't either.
Fair point.
All right, go on.
The only they are used for is when they cause violence
Message
in
coming in.
uncreative ways. In fact, the
Patching it
violence is
through.
one of the things that attracted people to the show, as well as that dark undertone. However, that tone is one of the things that has atrophied
Phase,
into one
huh?
of the show's
Would not
worst
call this
plots.
uncreative.
It started in episode 1, when Dracula massacres a whole town for revenge over his dead wife's death. And in this scene, it showed all of the blood, guts, language, and poorly lit environments that we would come to expect from Castlevania. The problem with this is how the show loses the tone by oversaturating it with dark and lazy crap. Whenever
Like what?
one of the many moments where people swear or get dismembered, it becomes painfully apparent that they are only included in the narrative in order to give the show its TVMA rating. There is more than just entrails in the show. Castlevania is saturated in profane language, roasting every member of religion, and in Season 3, they have a stupidly forced sex scene. No, wait, 2 sex scenes. I'll get back to that later.
I'm not seeing the problem with having sex scenes or violence on a thing to do. Like, just why do you do it? Was it done well? Why was it not done well? Like, that's what I want to know. Just saying there's sex scenes doesn't make it bad.
Yeah, the sex scene, that's another topic, but the violence here, especially with Dracula snapping, is and this level of gore about it, that fits Castlevania. That's part of it. This is a dark, dark fantasy world. Dark fantasy is its own thing. It's a subgenre, and it has an emphasis on the brutality and reality of the violence and the monsters. It's not your jolly Slayers anime where you have your magic and your monsters and it's all jokes. And yeah, bad things happen there too, but the emphasis is not on the hyper realism of violent monsters. So yeah, the demons are not real, but the violence is hyper realistic. Like, if these monsters would exist, this is what your town would end up like. And there is no with these kinds of monsters, what else but uncreative violence do you want? You're being attacked by beasts. Beasts are not creative with their violence.
Indeed.
Isaac is creative with his violence.
Here's
So that's because he's a human and a mastermind. In a way.
Here's Joe Crazy. I love the first Mortal Kombat movie. The theme still gets stuck in my head. Kind of cool that they brought back the Shang Tsung actor for Mortal Kombat 11. Oh boy.
Your soul is mine. Yeah, that was a pretty cool callback that they brought him back. Yeah.
I also want to...
Can I say that I only played the first Mortal Kombat ever in my life on the Amiga,
Oh wow.
and no
Oh,
Mortal
the
Kombat
Amiga.
after?
The Amiga.
Yeah.
Wow.
It only had 7 characters.
I
Okay.
mean, it's Mortal Kombat 1. What do you expect?
Oh.
Yeah, I loved it.
Dun, dun, dun.
I played through. And what pissed me off, I played through the game, and after I once played through the game with Scorpion, and it was impossible to read the end, the story bits you got after beating Shang Tsung, because it was red screen on this tiny CRT TV screen, completely unreadable in this weird font, and that's where you saw Scorpion's face or the lack thereof.
Not
And
canon.
after that, the floppy disk broke, and I just got flashy screens. I have no idea why that happened, because that was an original game. I want my money back.
Because Shang Tsung took your soul and you can't have it back.
Yeah, I could never play Mortal Kombat after that again. So sad.
Alright, moving on.
talk about how stupid the unending swearing is. When I watched the scene where the town mayor explains how some events went down, and he says,
My men-at-arms wipe their weapons in salt and shit.
because of the unending swearing, I thought he meant mud and spices instead of manure. Yes, this show uses its profane language so much that it cried wolf with its profanities.
Dude, normal people say shit and not manure. Even out in the way. Have you ever been out in the countryside? Talked with farmers? They don't give a shit about being nice.
You've been on YouTube.
And you expect people in this gritty, dark world whose family and friends have been shredded to pieces and their entrails pulled out to give a shit about nice language, really?
My question would be to him: have you seen Game of Thrones? Game of Thrones, like
You cut off.
free HBO, like in terms of its language, makes it Castlevania look tame. The only since it, as far as I'm aware, Castlevania does not drop the C-bomb, as far as I'm aware.
Well, I see nothing wrong with having, again, dirty language or a story where characters swear in a dark fantasy. It makes somewhat sense depending on the time frame and the intelligence and education level of everyone. They're a bunch of hicks from a town who are getting invaded by demons. They're kind of scared out of their mind.
These peasants out in the countryside, they use profane language. Wow.
How uncouth!
I can't even. Where's my fainting couch? Oh, come on. That's what you sound like.
Yeah.
Get out. Take a vacation.
There's
not in a hotel.
There's that wonderful
Take
scene
a vacation
where they're trying to. I think they're trying to open the door. I can't remember exactly where it is. And I think it's Alucard and Trevor. They're swearing at each other just because. That's a great
what
scene.
guys do.
It's a good scene.
There's no court to impress. If you have, for example, this Dracula court thing or any royal court stuff happening, then people watch their words. And I think this was done in Castlevania as well. They weren't swearing when being at these important gatherings.
Also, and even in the original series, Alucard doesn't exactly get along too well with any kind of Belmonts out when they're not fighting Dracula.
The only time he is more cordial is when he's talking to a lady, or when it's in the DS series where he's Arikado, and he's a completely different person, or he's persona rather. So he's supposed to act differently, but the games are designed for kids, and when they went to the DS, their marketing said, we got to make this for kids now. They changed the art style.
Igarashi specifically made that choice.
Yeah,
because he was trying to figure out the market for the handheld games at the time, and by the DS, he figured out, the anime style is going to work.
Yeah, the cutesy anime style. Like, what?
I mean, that was literally the thought process. Like, something wasn't adding up by the time, right before the DS games were about to come out. It's like, it dawned on him to use the anime style, and Castlevania did just fine after that.
I still miss the...
I'm not even kidding.
No, I still miss the artwork from Kojima that were just gothic, beautiful paintings. And they threw it away. Like,
true, definitely true.
I didn't even know that was possible before I watched this pile of crap. Because of all the not kid-friendly content displayed in ways that scream, "This is not a cartoon for your little brother," it comes off as hollow, and all of the violence loses.
Okay, there's actual
Castlevania isn't for kids. Period.
There's so many.
Just because it's a cartoon, just because it's raw, doesn't mean it's for kids.
If you look at all of the games, there's so many frames of animation, like of dying animations of all the beasts, that their body parts explode. There's gushes of blood or whatever. So it's not just defeat an enemy, it disappears. It's like it's a violent death. It's just explosive.
Look up the very first boss fight of Bloodlines on the Genesis. That one says it all, man.
Oh, Bloodlines is pretty gruesome. Like, all those friends turn into vampires from whatever her name is. I can't remember the chick who turns all the loved ones into vampires. It's like, holy shit, this is really, really nasty. Like, she's really screwing over these people's families. So it's not a happy story. Like Rondo of the Blood was one of those. I think it got remade into 3D or 2.5D, whatever they call that style.
It was 2.5D on the PSP. Yeah.
Right. Like that was awesome. That was great. Like, gruesome stuff. Like holy jeez, this vampire chick is just turning all these other girls into like vampires. Like oh my god.
To clarify, the vampire chick, I think, is if you don't save all the other girls before fighting Dracula, Richter's girlfriend is the one that becomes the vampire chick. Otherwise, if you save everyone, that doesn't happen.
Right. So I think it's the Countess or whatever the hell. I can't remember her name. But yeah.
I mean, Carmilla is also in the game, but that's a separate thing.
Yeah. It's always a Carmilla somewhere.
Well, I mean, not in. Remember, she first appeared in 2, and when I saw that they were going to add her into the Netflix show, I was like, okay, let's see how they work her into the Castlevania 3 plot, because she wasn't in 3 originally.
I know she was in Lords of Shadow, but that doesn't really count. That's a reimagining.
That's a reimagining. Yes.
Yeah.
That's different interpretations of all the characters from the main series.
That's what happens when you get Hideo Kojima. You're like, oh, please stop, stop changing what already works.
No. To be fair, Lords of Shadow 1 was pretty decent despite the God of War vibe.
Yeah.
It was fine. It was pretty good.
Patrick Stewart. He's like, oh, thanks. That's all we need.
The impact it could have. While the show touts itself as super dark, it forgets to be dark. It only gets
What? Look at this! Look at this scene.
What? You have happy your happy festivity garlands. I don't know what the English word is. Probably not that. Is entrails. You want to hang some pretty lights onto them?
Yeah, you were correct. It's garlands.
What?
Man.
How much more dark do you want this to go, dude? Like, is not dark enough for you?
Yeah, and before he acknowledged that it's uncreative in its violence to get its mature rating, and so if it's mature, how can you complain that it's not kid friendly when it deliberately tries to be mature by your own interpretation of this? And then you complain it's not enough that? Well, I would like an explanation of what you expect. I hope you give it. Or are you going to grow up into the kind of guy who played video games and watched cartoons and maybe even listen to metal? And then you grow up into some douche who wants to censor video games and cartoons because they are corrupting the children with all this violence and sexism. And
basically stupid parents in the 90s.
Yeah. Well, currently the SJWs are that. That's a joke.
Yeah.
Well, they're all over the place, but they are also that.
The SJWs are even worse with that shit, remember?
Yeah, I know, they're all over the place, but they're also this.
At least
also
like
something they are. While they're also the complete opposite of that, they're also this.
Also, like, one of the weird things about, the SJW stereotype and, just the woke Twitter crowd crazies, at least in the 90s, most companies did not take the whiny, stupid, puritanical parents that seriously. They would still produce content,
and thank the Lord for that.
Yeah,
they would still put out content that was not aimed at the puritanicals.
Yeah, but that's the
and now we're
difference
getting
back then. The difference between the two is the Puritan fundamentalist Christians. They were always on the outside, and they stayed on the outside. They only criticized the stuff from the outside. So the companies knew, okay, That's bullshit. They're not gonna buy our stuff. You are our fans. You love our stuff for what it is. We give you what you want. We love our stuff too, so we make quality. What we now have is that due to this wonderful activism that is predicated on this wonderful strategy of the long march
now
to
we
the
have
institutions,
the
they are
opposite where the fans. Now we have the opposite where the fans are the ones that are ignored.
Yes, because these activists didn't stay on the outside. They went right into the companies. They didn't just protest the companies. They didn't just urge the companies and made media campaigns or anything like that, which companies could have simply ignored. No, they got into the company. They're getting hired into it first, like into HR and other parts, and that's when they can then filter who gets to be into the company after that. That is one part of how it works.
A lot of them fresh off their gender studies degrees.
Yeah, then they rather hire the gender studies degrees over the ones with the actual game design expertise.
Yeah.
That's for gaming companies. And then you get this stuff.
Here is Tyler Preston. Thoughts on the spiritual successor of Castlevania Bloodstained Ritual of the Night. I actually really enjoyed it. I did help kickstart it. It had a lot of interesting, before the game was released, they had like, what would you like to see? And they give you options, and you could vote on those options, like the shader for the lighting shading technique that they were using, because they all looked really good, but they asked you what kind of, do you want it more cell shaded? Do you want it more realistic? Do you want it more cutesy, like the coloring? So, and then they just give you the option to dress up the character, but it's really just a knockoff version of Castlevania, because it's so big. Like, Castlevania is so big, and Igarashi just says, okay, I'm just going to do my own thing, but his own thing is Castlevania. So it just like, there's like, what's her name? Bloodless. She's the Carmilla of Bloodstained. Like, it's totally Carmilla. They actually put Alucard in there as like Orlok's Dracul or something like that. And he's the librarian.
Yes.
He's the librarian. I'm like, oh, come on! Like, it's so obvious.
Which is also Robert Belgrade. Thank you very much.
Yes. But they have all these.
It's like well. To be fair to Igarashi, it's like he's pretty much the guy that wrote the book on how to do Castlevania right after the classic series, starting with Symphony.
Yeah.
So, just like you can kind of forgive it, because he's the one that started that trend in the first place.
And he knows.
I mean, it's not perfect. It's not perfect.
No.
It's like, it's not immune to criticism, I realize, but it's like, you can kind of see where it's justified.
And it really does take the ideas that he learned, or the concepts that he applied in the DS games, and said, okay, we're going to make this better. And the gameplay is better. Like, it is actually just really good gameplay. So the designs aren't as specific and streamlined as Castlevania, but they're more random. They're more like, oh, what's that? Like, what kind of creature is that thing? Oh, I saw that in the Area of Sorrow. Same idea. So they take the gameplay elements, they play with them, and the storyline could have been a lot better, and there could have been a lot better voice acting, and this and that. So it's basically Castlevania.
Could it be that
again? It wasn't going to be perfect, but it's like you can see the effort.
Exactly.
Yeah, but hypothetical question. Bloodstained is the first game in that series, if you will.
I don't know.
So he's starting his new thing that is basically the same thing as the old thing. I've seen something similar with Torchlight by the original Diablo creators.
Right.
After they went off Blizzard North and they wanted to do their own thing, and their first game they made commercially was Torchlight, which is basically Diablo 2 or a Diablo game, or even Diablo 1, if you will, but with a lot of improvements of what they learned about game design of this type of game. So it's essentially the old game, new world, new story, but just the same dungeon crawler, 16 random levels that you hack and slash through, and that's it. And that's just the first game in the thing. The second game then was way more open, way bigger, even more improvements to quality of life, which, by the way, Blizzard is now copying for their remake of Diablo 2.
Yeah.
But so I can see. I can accept when people when they go out of their old company, start their own thing, that the first thing they make is the base thing of what they always did, to see can I get the basics right still in a new setting.
Yeah, but I do believe if he wants to make a sequel, if he wants to do something else, like he has not announced it. It has been a while. So I'm like, okay, are you still adding DLC? Are you still adding whatever stuff to the game? Because there's lots of weird unfinished stuff in the game, which I'm not sure why they did that. Like there's the whole room with the music boxes. I'm like, what is this room? What does it do? What's the point of it all? Why are there chairs? Why are we sitting around with this ghost and just disappears? Like, I don't get it.
Maybe it's just a mystery box.
I don't know.
But it can just be these games. Sometimes these creations are also weather balloon. Like I didn't expect Torchlight 2 to happen.
Yeah. The first game was good.
First game was good. Okay, cool. And then just the second one came out for me to a surprise, and I was like, oh, okay, let's look into it.
So there's obviously a demand. Igarashi was aware of that. It's the same thing with the other members of Konami. Konami's a fantastic company back in the day. So Hideo Kojima was their star. Now we have all the guys from Suikoden. Suikoden was a massive series, and they went to Kickstarter. They're doing a thing called Eiyuden Chronicle, which is I love the Konami games. Suikoden's one of my favorites, and Castlevania is just my sort of like that dirty sort of, I shouldn't be eating fast food at 3 a.m, but you do it sometimes. That's what Castlevania is to me, because it's just so silly, like a bunch of crazy monsters you beat the crap out of. So
I'm just really frustrated with Konami today, because they put all the classics out on Steam to make a buck on it again, so that the normies don't need an emulator where it all works perfectly on.
Yeah.
And then these are bad.
That is ultimately the gauge interest on the series.
But the just look at the reviews, or well, if you want to spend the money on it and see for yourself, all these Konami ports are horrible. These are NES, Super Nintendo games, and so on, that basically ran on what today is in your toaster, and they have lag and frame drops. They crash, and you just think you can get a better experience if you just use the old emulator. These old games, they were 8 megabytes big?
Not even.
The funny things about the Konami games, at least the ones for the PlayStation, Suikoden, Symphony of the Night, that sort of thing, they're selling in the hundreds of dollars. Like, they're really rare now. And to get them, like, just to keep them with the jewel case, and is like at least $300-$400 sometimes, which is nuts.
There aren't. Symphony of the Night never had that many copies in circulation to begin with, even when it first came out.
Right.
It was meant to be a side project for. It's like, because the main focus was Castlevania 64 back then, and we all know how that turned out.
And the canceled Sega Dreamcast game that was supposed to come out, Resurrection, I think. Yeah, there's all kinds of development stories that just went nowhere without funding or whatever. So
Resurrection would have been Sonya's second appearance in the series.
Oh yeah,
funny enough,
Sonya.
Because it would have been with a Belmont that simply did not take up the mantle of the Belmont clan, and then fate or whatever it was just brought Sonya back to do the job for him.
That was a strange Game Boy game, but yeah. Not much story
there.
I'm
talking about Resurrection.
Oh, the actual. Okay, all right. That every time I watched the demo, I was like, "Wow, this looks amazing!" What happened? Anyway.
Sadder when other shows end up outclassing Castlevania, like Yu-Gi-Oh. Yes.
Wait, what? Wait.
Really?
What?
No.
You're comparing Yu-Gi-Oh.
I like
absurdist humor.
I like Yu-Gi-Oh, but Yu-Gi-Oh is the McDonald's of anime shows.
I don't know what to say. What the fuck?
There's nothing to say. It's like, that's such a stupid point.
Let him make his point.
Managed to be more dark and disturbing than Castlevania. Yu-Gi-Oh! Is mostly lighthearted.
Only
characters placing
3 season. Only season 0.
Only
And then-
And that wasn't
Only-
about... Because season 0 didn't have the card game.
Oh.
Also, season 0 didn't have to cater to an American audience.
Huh?
Yeah, and remember that Season 0 has something as dumb as Kaiba ripping up the 4th Blue Eyes card because it didn't attack when he told it to.
Whoa, that's gory.
That's why there's a... No, it's just ripping the card. No, literally ripping the card after that Shadow game ended.
Oh my, how scary.
Yeah, it's like,
Yeah.
that outclasses Castlevania? Really?
You
See, now we know why he turned off comments and downvoting.
Yeah.
is clearly this has got some weird stuff.
If by weird you
Weird.
mean completely ass backward stupid, then yes.
Now let's go with that.
That's a good one.
cards down yelling what is happening. I once even had a cousin teasing me for having Yu-Gi-Oh! On my watch list on Netflix because of the marketing to younger audiences. What many, like my stupid cousin, might not know is this show gets very dark. There is this uneasy dread whenever a Millennium item unleashes its horrifying power on unexpected victims. Whether it be when someone's soul gets trapped in a card or when some characters duel in the Shadow Realm. It can get shockingly disturbing because of the contrast of lightheartedness. The darkness in Yu-Gi-Oh! Is amplified because the audience sees what the lighthearted side of the world looks like. If you compare this to
watched a lot of
Castlevania,
stuff,
where
have you?
every scene...
Wait a second. So he's trying to say because there's a contrast, therefore there's a greater range of horror?
That it kind of doesn't. Maybe, but it really kind of doesn't. The argument doesn't. It doesn't help the argument.
If there
He's
was,
doing- he's
yeah,
making
when
here.
you're talking about adult anime or anime with violence and sex and whatever, yeah, you would if you had that contrast, it would be this huge range between really virginal, nice, kind woman, then getting skewered and butchered and having her body vivisected the next moment. Like that would be a huge contrast, yeah. But you don't get that in Yu-Gi-Oh! You get sort of children's violence.
The worst that you get, the worst you get is basically a baby hellscape situation with My Valentine, where she's seeing her friends have fun without her and not even mention her name. That's the worst
the
you
horror.
Like this,
Yeah.
there's this. I don't know if it's this scene, but there's a scene. Is it episode 2 or sorry, season 2, where there's this priest, and he's worshiping the devil, but he doesn't know it. And the devil comes down and says, "You thought you were praying to God, you were praying to me, or you're the real devil, or whatever." Like that was a great scene because he thought he's being all holy, and he's like, "Oh, see, God is protected." It's like, no, God's not here. We are. So it was this really great, transition for him to realize what he's been doing, and he's actually been worshiping devils. So it showcases the corruption of the church and how horrible they are, and why. And it justifies why Dracula is so pissed off, why he hates humans so much, why the death of his wife. So that was great. That was a simple scene,
Message coming in.
and it was horrific.
Patching it through.
You didn't need too much gore there, but they had that as well. Joe Crazy, I like Yu-Gi-Oh! As much as the next guy, but come on. Yeah, I don't know. It's like comparing,
There's
I don't know, Terminator 2 to like the Masters of the Universe or something. It's like, come on. It just...
Have you seen some of the Ghibli movies? They're darker than Yu-Gi-Oh!
Oh, yeah.
Game of Thrones to Disney.
Yeah. Disney flick.
Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones,
Ugh.
The Disney fantasy to the Disney princess movies.
yeah.
There's no comparison.
is supposed to be not kid-friendly, the stuff that they try to make heavy loses most of the shock because the show only contrasts its dark moments with other dark moments. The showrunners should be embarrassed. that Yu-Gi-Oh! Is outclassing them at their own game.
But
No, it's not.
No,
I have an idea why your video was downvoted.
Yu-Gi-Oh's writing is crap, and this is coming from a person who will watch Yu-Gi-Oh! Oh, it is.
I rather watch Team Rocket fly into the sun again.
And again, and again, and again, until the cows come home.
It's so dark. There's so much darkness. They added more dark. That's not good. You're like, okay.
There are lighthearted moments in the Castlevania cartoon.
The Millennium Items basically do the same thing over and over.
Yeah, you don't do the lighthearted moments in contrast with blood raining from the sky.
And it's like literally the most we see the Millennium Items do is most of what they do is just do the shadow game shit. That's it.
Blackness surround us, or your soul is going to be put into a card, or your soul is going to be strapped in the Shadow Realm in a baby hellscape. That's all
I'm saying is that the thing that we see Millennium Items do the most is enact the shadow games. That's it. And then all the other stuff in between.
Yeah.
And the show could have had lighthearted moments. How about when Sifa and Belmont are laughing, talking about the flying goats that shoot flaming balls of crap, when it could have been even more impactful if the audience was shown these ridiculous monsters.
Okay, wait, slow down.
Ugh.
They have plenty of interactions that are lighthearted, but these are broken people. Like these people have gone through hell, and this is the life they've chosen, and they know they're going to go through worse. It's that's the story. You can't. Yeah, maybe you could have moments of lightheartedness here and there, and you see that with the frozen beer, and they're together in bed.
We literally talked about Trevor and Alucard literally just saying "fuck you" to each other back and forth over and over again.
Yeah, it's funny. Like there's some good moments in there. It's not amazing or anything. It's not great dialogue. It's just funny here and there. Like, what do you want them to do? Like, what is your idea of lighthearted moments for these characters? Like, plant a rose garden? Like, what do you? I don't know. Pet a dog?
Policemen, firemen, crews of ambulances. After a really hard day, where real shit happened, they do go drinking. They talk about what happened. They crack jokes, because that is how you cope with traumatic events. Otherwise, if you don't do that, if you don't crack jokes about the shit, that is when it's more likely that you develop things like PTSD. Because you need to talk about this shit. You need to make light of it. It's gallows humor, dark humor, that needs to be there. Because otherwise, the reality of it all, of what's going on around you, will be crushing you. You need the company, you need the jokes, you need to make light of it to some degree without losing the sense of gravity it has, without forgetting the reality of it. But you need to be able to make light of it. And that's I don't know if you know people in these professions. I don't know if you want to ask them about it, but that's usually what they do. And also what a good captain of a crew invites them to after that. Because this isn't something we needed to develop the field of psychology for. This is something we've known ever since there were wars, which is pretty long ago. Couple millennia.
How about the time when Belmont flings his Morningstar whip into a night creature's head and he pulls out brains before the night creature combusts? Actually, this ties back to the point that the night creatures don't have any rules behind them, because the head would have blown up before the brains ever hit the ground.
What? Does he understand how explosive brains work in a fantasy? What?
I have no idea about the mechanics there.
I feel like he's trying to apply the game logic of how
what
you kill and how it works. It's like that's how I'm seeing it. I don't know if it's actually that. It's like that's maybe
okay.
It's like
This is
him
visual
saying that it
storytelling.
should happen on the moment of impact.
Yeah, well, okay, but this is visual storytelling. So the Morning Star, we don't know how it works. We just know it's a whatever special weapon. When it hits things, it causes them to explode. We don't know the exact fuse or combination of elements that does that. It just does that, and there's a delay, and then it happens. That's it.
I mean, the most bare bones thing we know about that at all is that that's how it happens in the game. That you just whip something and it blows up. But in universe, we don't know much.
Yeah, there's no literary explanation. There's no dialogue. There's just we see it visually, and then it happens again and again and again. It's like, oh, it's consistent. We get it. It's fine. Obviously, we could argue the timing, the actual body parts that are connected, etc. Like, how does that exactly like, is there oxygen in the muscle? Like, I don't know, but we don't need that.
The most basic thing you can say that it's just some kind of like holy magic counteracting like the dark magic from the monsters.
Basic stuff,
but
exactly.
Other than that, yeah, on a basic level, that you can assume that's what it is. But other than that, we haven't been giving any other explanation.
Right, and this is kind of the problem I had with the second whip, where he pulls it out, and it's like, oh, now he's got two whips, and one of them is not as good. I don't understand, but he's doing a heck of a lot of damage.
I just see that scene. I just see it as weird from the perspective of we've never seen a Belmont dual wield before.
Yeah,
we've seen other people dual wield in the games, but not a Belmont at any point ever.
The thing is that you have the delay explosion here is mainly for impact. That's when you go to the length of making when you make this animation. When you see things like this in cheaper anime or cheaper cartoons, for example, it's the energy blast gets close to the enemy, and then the enemy just fades into a puff of smoke and swirl, and the energy blast goes through, and there's just nothing. They could have done that, and would be even cheaper. So I give them credit for doing the slow version here. If you follow his argument, you could criticize that the brain on the floor could explode as well, and not just the creature, but that's a moot point, I think.
It's very, very. This is almost nitpicking level, but it's such a strange. It's a visual thing. It's supposed to be told visually. There's no, this is the weapon that does X, Y, Z, and when you do Y, then Z will happen. Like, oh, now I know, and then you see X, Y, Z occur. Like, that's what you would expect, but we don't need that.
And that's a nice thing to the delay, because that means the enemies don't die instantly. They could do one last thing before they really die. That makes it not as safe a weapon as it looks.
Yeah, which in itself is a callback to certain games where the bosses have like the comeback thing, where they can do that last attack and try something else. Even on that level, there's at least some kind of logic to it.
You can see this because it is longer than the average explosion. Do you see why this is a problem? Castlevania is willing to break its own rules, if it has any, just so it can be more rated R. This all leads to the core flaw the show has.
Wait, you're trying to tell me a delayed explosion is giving it an R rating? I don't think so. That's weird.
Does this guy have a problem with Castlevania having an R rating? Is that a problem? That itself. Not just that. So he sees that Castlevania is trying hard to get an R rating. But my question is, do you actually believe that it's a bad thing that it has an R rating? Are you saying it shouldn't have an R rating? It should leave out all the horrific stuff.
Yeah.
And aim for some, I don't know, teen everyone. I don't know how all these
things
work.
This is famous with Sailor Moon. When it was brought over to North America, they changed all the alien blood, which was apparently red, to like purple or whatever. So it just looks like, oh, they're just getting hurt, and they're not real people. They're just sort of weird.
I mean, aliens with different colored blood, I personally have never had an issue with, because that just proves that there's that like extra level of like difference between species.
Right, and when they do die, it's they just sort of disappear in this weird. Well, that's the idea. It's supposed to be poetic anyway. So I think Neophyte disappears. He has green blood or whatever like that, and it's all sad because what's her name was in love with him, and what's his name was in love with her, and it was kind of a strange story, but it was actually one of the more better plot lines of the first few seasons of Sailor Moon. So it was like, yeah, we want drama. We want characters to lose things that are important to them. And death occurs. Like, oh my God, that's kind of tragic because they loved each other, even though one was a villain and the other one was just a girl going to high school. So
on the flip side, they changed two lesbians. They changed two lesbians to being cousins, and that just made things even weirder.
Yeah, they try all these little things. Like, just let it be. Just translate the actual Japanese as best you can. Don't alter the characters. It's fine. It's like, no, they got to change all the transformations and everything else, all the relationships. Like, no, God. I think the kids are mature. I think even when I was in high school, I was like, this is silly. You don't have to do this.
Do you know how much they changed with Saber Rider?
Saber Rider.
It was basically rewritten and the scenes completely rearranged to give what was his name? Colt? To make Colt look like more of the main character, give him a main role, because he's the American.
Oh, Saber Rider and the Star Sheriffs. Why do I remember that? Oh, I remember the song. Yeah. Saber Rider. Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, that was awesome. But the US version has almost nothing to do with the original.
Yeah.
It was completely recut.
Jeez.
That is a level of localization. And Dragon Ball Z got a lot of violence cut out. That's why the US episodes are so short.
Oh, there's so many not pervy scenes, but
I think DBZ had the worst of that back then.
Well, but you have no idea, because the German version is a censored version of the American version.
Yeah.
Our episodes were even shorter.
I mean, can I just say this quick? It's like, I honestly don't know why people rag on Kai so much when it's like it's objectively better. I mean, in my opinion, it's better than the original run, and I won't apologize for that.
And I haven't seen Dragon Ball Kai. I saw the original, and from Dragon Ball Z, I only saw until somewhere in the Buu saga, and then it just went stale.
I mean, if you're nowadays, if you're gonna watch Dragon Ball Z at all, I personally recommend Kai. Kai's the canon one anyway, so. Well,
I have no idea what you're talking about.
It's the canon version now because of Super. So.
I just kind of avoid Dragon Ball because I'm just like, this is.
I'll grant you that it's not for everyone, but yeah.
I mean, just like this is too much material for me to get into, like, of a long running story.
I mean, that's partially why Kai exists in the first place.
I'll just stick with the original first Dragon Ball anime. That was cute, that was fun, that was grounded, that was stupid, that was great.
Yeah, it was stupid, but it was fun.
Yeah, and it had Mr. Popo.
Oh, speaking of which, never forget, what was it? Nickelodeon changing in Kai, changing Popo to blue for some reason. What was it, Nickelodeon or Toonzai? I can't remember which one.
I don't know. I heard of that, and thankfully in German they didn't erase his blackness. Because that's also how you can see that.
Erase his blackness, it's hilarious.
Everyone loves Mr. Popo. It's only these weird racists that hate him. Just look at his eyes staring into your soul. How can you not love him?
When Castlevania Season 2 came out, I invited my friends over so we could all watch it together and have a good time. While we watched, something bugged me, and I wanted to know if my friends agreed, so I asked, does this remind you guys of Game of Thrones? The answer was a big fat yes from everyone. Remember when
Wait.
Because it
How
has
exactly?
How?
because it's medieval and has castles.
How?
Because it's medieval and has
political
castles.
maneuvering.
Yeah, let's hear him. Let's hear him
Have
out.
you seen Marco Polo? Have you seen Marco Polo? It has roughly the same thing happening.
I said this spider's web of problems that started in season 1 of the show, well, it only gets more tangled from here. Game of Thrones follows this formula that focuses on multiple storylines that are connected together by previous events from past seasons and consists mostly of people talking with each other over what's going to happen in the future seasons. It also has boob and sex scenes to boot, and guess what? Castlevania Season 3 does all these things, but only worse. Let's talk about those sex scenes now. I'm not going to show...
Wait, before we get into that. Is your critique that there is story writing that pronunciation reminds us of the past and foreshadows the future? Because that's what a lot of storytelling does, whether it's good or bad. But that's just basic writing.
I don't know how you can criticize the first season of Game of Thrones and then say it's foreshadowing what happens in season 4 or 5 or 6, and you're like, so what?
Dude.
This is a bad thing. Why?
And to say, oh, it also has violence. Oh, it also has sex scenes. Like,
And
how does
That's every medieval or fantasy drama made for adults nowadays. It's every
but
single
it's
one.
not supposed to have a mature rating.
Why?
I don't know.
And I still ask, why not? Why not?
I asked that too, but he doesn't answer why. He
Yeah,
doesn't
anyway.
answer it.
anything graphic because I like how I don't need to go through the hassle of putting up
I
age
hated that
restrictions on
plotline.
this video. And
This
the scenes
plotline
are
was
so
really
redundant
stupid.
and inane that the narrative would have been better if they never existed. I say this because these poorly timed scenes are interrupting an awesome action sequence that clearly had lots of...
Question: do these characters exist in Castlevania anywhere?
No.
No, they're just the generic ladies.
No, one is
Actually,
a guy, I think.
no, one is a guy.
What?
Yeah,
which
and
one?
yeah,
You know?
the one on the
Oh,
right.
wait, no, the one on the right. Yeah, I just saw it.
And yeah, this
I was
is
just like, what?
the vampire
Look
ladies.
kind of androgynous,
Yeah,
but
the vampire ladies together with this subplot with these two characters that seemingly completely randomly switch their stance on what they want to do with Alucard. That seemed so ham-fisted, and this is this push of unnecessary sexualization that I didn't understand why it must be in there. I can agree in that regard, because here I see the push for stuff that the cartoon lady we covered likes so much, because I didn't see this adding anything to the story of the character.
She would love it. Oh my God, there's two guys having sex. It must be good. Like, what? No.
Yeah, but this is the part where I thought it's also incestuous, by the way. This is the part where I thought this is ideological injection. This is not Castlevania.
I'm not sure if ideological injection. I think it's just pandering to a specific market.
Yes,
Just dumb,
that's
shit.
what it is. That's part of what it is.
It's poorly developed. It just comes out of nowhere. It's like, why are they doing this?
Yeah,
They have no reason. They have no reason to think this way, even if their past says all vampires are bad. It's like, what was your plan? To befriend a dude who's stronger than you, to see him as your teacher, and then turn... Like, what part of your brain goes, oh yeah, we could totally kill this guy? This dude is hundreds of years old. He has secrets you've never heard of, and you're angry he's not sharing secrets with you, maybe one of those secrets are so deadly that he can use them against you. Like, it's just basic stuff.
Alucard's basically a demigod.
Yeah. At the end of Symphony of the Night, you are a god. You are so powerful. You just run through the castle.
Especially if you go for 2 Chrysagrams and 2 Rings of Varda.
It's
At that point, you're just unstoppable.
Obviously, it's basically the ring from Tolkien, only times 2. You are so goddamn powerful, and then you have these 2 vacuum blades which cut through anything, and you're just like, what is this? You're just melting through everything.
Yes.
The end boss takes about 2 seconds to die. It's like, done. Like, well, okay.
Yeah, and I think that the third season falls flat because of things like this and the Vampire Ladies.
The Vampire Ladies were okay. The way they executed them were just a little weak. They were
not as bad as this.
No, this was the worst, yeah.
This was the weakest element.
Yeah, for sure. Not because it was sexual, but because of the character motivation to do the things they did.
And the execution of the plan. Or the plan in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, they had a plan, but it was just a dumb plan. Like, okay, you're going to tie him up, really? A vampire? Okay.
Yeah. Well, he still has his magic sword.
And a vampire, let alone Alucard? I don't think so.
Who also has a magic sword that...
But hey, they have cool shaved eyebrows.
Yeah, whatever. What did they have? Katanas and bows. That was their weapon when they came to see him. It's like, you're nothing. You're a bunch of kids.
Nights and hundreds of hours of work that clearly went into them, just so the show could have another reason to be TVMA. Actually, I have a better idea of how to drill this bad decision into your head so you stop calling me petty. Jacob.
Or petty.
Who remembers Avengers Endgame?
What?
Imagine if during that sequence where all the Avengers are fighting Thanos' forces, the scene got cut up with the Hulk, revealing that he's a necrophiliac with Black Widow's corpse. And how about we...
What?
Not happening during...
Yeah, get the fuck out of here with that right now.
Dude, as dumb as the Alucard scene is, it's not happening in the middle of a giant battle or another action scene. It's in its own little quiet moment when nothing else is going on. This is a false equivalent, sorry. Bad example.
Okay, if you read a book and one chapter is one plot line, the next chapter is another plot line, your brain can go, okay, yeah, these are happening in roughly the same amount of time frame, different locations, different characters. Your brain is fine. We can do that with TV too. The great thing
about... Can we do away with the weird insect?
Oh, sure, okay.
Throw Vision in, well, Scarlet.
All right, there we go. Okay. It's like, what's that?
No, this one's more relevant. Still a stupid point, though.
Yeah. So you can have multiple plot threads running at the same time that thematically, musically, whatever the content is, coincide in some way. So climaxes, literal climaxes, action scenes. I think the scene with Isaac coincides with this. You can do that. There's nothing wrong with that. That's what... Remember Last Jedi? The most exciting part of the movie is when that one ship rams into the other ships. That's a cool scene. It's stupid as hell.
Also,
it breaks everything.
Also,
it didn't just break the ship.
Also, the throne womb scene, the sexiest scene in all of Star Wars.
Well, to be fair, it's like I think there was a throwaway line in the original trilogy saying it's like you got to map out your course before you go into lightspeed or else shit happens.
Yeah, but
so I think that's what they were. No, I know it's a stupid scene regardless, but it's like I think that's what they were working off of.
No, that was for a celestial object. That's what you need to map it out for. But it doesn't mean that your impact will just destroy everything in its path. It's rather that, well, you're a very high energy object, no question about that. You're still just a fly on a windshield, and in that scene, usually you have to actively aim for the other ship, crash into it.
Yeah, but
Because his hyperspeed works very, very strange.
Holdo has like amazing aim, like 1 in a million shot. He's like, okay, thanks, JJ. Thank you.
Yeah, and that aside, before TLJ, shields of ships were fine enough to protect you from hyperspace impact aimed at you. That's been shown in various media before TLJ. Of course, Kennedy threw everything out, but that doesn't change the fact. So the scene couldn't have happened. It's more like you get repelled by that in some form or other. There are scenes in the Clone Wars series with Ahsoka where they go into the hyperspace stuff. By the way, I think I don't know if it's in the episode where they have the interdictor ships. The interdictors disrupt the hyperspace capabilities of ships around them, and there's another scene where Ahsoka is doing the I can't get it together. I have the images in my head, but I can't get it together the correct way. Where she's threatening another ship by trying to go into hyperspace, and no, I can't get it together again. Sorry, but she's very tightly aligned with the other ship. They're very close to each other.
All right, let's try and salvage this argument this dude's making.
Yes.
So they can sneak in on the action in the same room, or even better, in the middle of the battlefield where everyone can watch. Now that
what is this weird straw man you invented, sir? Why would who thinks this way? What a great idea! Let's have Hulk just whip out his large Hulk penis and just having sex with a corpse. Like, no.
Corpse.
Is this even a straw man?
I don't know what this is.
I don't think it has enough substance to be a straw.
That's not even something you want to see.
We can at least agree that it's stupidity.
Yeah.
It is very, very dumb.
Yes.
It is very, very, very dumb.
You are stupid.
have scarred you with stupid
Does not make
scenario,
any sense.
you can see why the sex scenes in Castlevania are the dumbest moves the writer could have made. And
No, that sex scene made sense.
No.
The other one, yeah.
With Hector's being seduced. That's a whole plan of hers she's been waiting to do, and it finally works. That's a good scene. Everything was figured out.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
You are just weird. Critiques, and you think Yu-Gi-Oh! Is the pinnacle of writing or something?
Yu-Gi-Oh! That sounds so silly. Yu-Gi-Oh! Does it better. Like, what? Really?
Okay.
Again, utter stupidity.
Are you cognitive? Is your cognitive function impaired? Okay.
Is your brain broke?
Wait. He is subjectively correct.
Oh.
There's only one of the stupid decisions the writer made. Season 2 wasn't amazing, but the choice that shot it out there as one of the best shows was when they killed the antagonist. Dracula's death was unexpected and so satisfying because it got people hyped for future seasons. What would they do now that the main antagonist is dead? The answer is simple. Nothing!
No. Okay.
Well, first of all, Dracula's death is inevitable. It's Castlevania.
Yeah, Castlevania. This is all inspired by Castlevania 3, which is Dracula's curse. Dracula is dead to begin with. As far as I recall, he's getting brought back to life every time.
No, no, he's alive at the start of 3.
Oh, yeah?
He's just waiting up in the castle like a douche.
Like, he's always coming back. There's always some ritual. There's always some cult that brings him back, and that's the premise. Yes. And that's exactly what we see in Season 3. There's this crazy... that was a really interesting monster that gets sacrificed by the cult and is using its blood or whatever, its body, to make a gateway. Like, that's a really interesting, weird thing I've never seen before. So
Yeah, and I like the scene with the zoom in through the whole hellscape. Sadly, they did it twice, but the time they did it and then ended up with Dracula holding his wife in his arms. That was impactful.
yeah, and
And
he
you saw sadness and pain, and at the same time some sort of relief in them. And really, that was well done. I have so much to criticize about the show, but that moment was really well done.
And he looks back at the gateway and he's about to grab it and it just poof, gone. You're like, whoa, that was close. Oh my god. So that's the basic plot of all the Castlevanias. What's the new twist? And that's where we got Soma Cruz with the DS series. He is the reincarnation of Dracula naturally. So
Yeah, but to be fair, that for that idea to come about, that took decades for someone to come up, for Ego to come up with that.
well, to get permission to do it first off, yeah.
Well, yeah, true, but it took a while. It took a while for that idea to surface in an actual game.
Yeah. They should have really. It's the same with Bloodlines, or sorry, Ritual of the Night. It's like she has that curse on her body, which turns her body to more crystal, but they never really bring it up again. It's just this thing. That's her initial reason to go into this crazy adventure. Like once you have that you forget about it. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, whatever. So they have to develop these plot lines as plot lines. They can't just give us a premise and just forget about it. So using monsters as gateways to other dimensions like hell, and having this crazy cult, which was just creepy as hell. I was like, that's kind of neat. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, there are all these dead-eyed weirdos who clearly are like doing something Lovecraftian in their basement.
Yeah.
This is the level as stupid as when Snoke died in The Last Jedi. Because without a compelling antagonist, the story
Not even
loses the
remotely.
tension it once had. Not only that, but then they took this as an opportunity to make it even more like Game of Thrones. The main story was...
Really? Where? How?
Have you? I mean, I haven't played a lot of Castlevania, but have you played Castlevania?
This guy probably not.
I don't. Something told me he has not played a single fucking game.
The most dramatic scene, there's only two dramatic scenes in Symphony of the Night. One where he fights the succubus, and one when he defeats Dracula. That's it. That's everything else is pretty like standard go here kill thing. So it's all about his mother. It's all about Dracula or Alucard's mother, and how much he loved her and how much Dracula loves her, and how Dracula needs to learn how to let go and stop trying to harm humanity as a result. Like how to learn about forgiveness.
Not many people remember Alucard is kind of a mama's boy.
Yeah, no. It's totally true that he's really into his family, and that's the whole tragic prince story. Even though there's not much tragedy to him because he's just a guy who knows he has to kill his dad. But then you see, please stop going crazy over humanity because they killed our mom. Like just or my mom. Please stop. You need to let it go. That's it. That's all. That's the whole story. So all this stuff with Richter and Maria, like that's just to get him along his way when there's a puzzle to solve. It's all game mechanics, really. And the beauty that is the second level or the hidden level of Castlevania Symphony of the Night is what makes the game memorable so much, because they use the characters to bring that out.
Yeah, the inverted castle.
Yeah, that was brilliant. That was like, oh my god, I have everything I've done times 2, only twice as hard as well, and everything's brilliant. Everything's upside down. You got the same monsters but different as well as other like it's brilliant. Like just that alone. Just take the palettes, take the sprites, swap them.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah, and then for like all the extra bosses, all the classic monsters from Castlevania 1 and 3, and then pretty much doing the inverted castle was pretty much Simon's Quest but better.
Oh god, it was brilliant. The music was even better. The items you got, the weapons you got, everything was just amped up. It was like, oh my god, this is what everything I just loved playing, which I thought was done, twice as long, twice as hard, twice as cool. It's like, oh, because you're already at that point you're already really strong, but you're not like god level. And then you just get stronger, and you're like, I am Alucard. Nothing can stop me.
Yeah.
And that's what I want.
The one complaint anyone should have with the inverted castles, the one song that gets repeated for like 5 or 6 different areas. The final toccata.
Yeah.
That is the one thing many people, including myself, have against the inverted castle. That one song is overused as hell.
But even that is basically taking Johann Sebastian Bach. That just take the most epic song he's ever written, and then do your own take on that. Because the reason is Michiru Yamane, she graduated studying Bach. So it makes perfect sense that she would do something like that. And my favorite song out of the whole track list is Lost Painting. And I'm sure you know that one. It's the chimes.
Yeah, I hear it every time I grind for 2 Crusagrams in the library.
Exactly. But it's a beautiful, enchanting piece of. It's so simple and it's so magical, and you're like, "This is great. This is so cool. Something special is happening." It's the most ethereal. All the music is really ethereal, but it's just this, and that's just the North American version. We lost a bunch of levels and tracks from the Nocturne version in Japan. So,
yeah, it was just 2 areas. I think it was like a garden, the garden and the cemetery, I think.
Yeah, and there was a familiar you couldn't get, like the singing
until not until the PSP version.
Right. Yeah.
The only thing we lost in the PSP version was the 2 areas. We got almost everything else back that was cut. It was brought back on the PSP.
Yeah, so that's why when we saw Alucard, obviously you can't have him with an armament that mimics Symphony. That would just be like, he would be, what's his name? Gilgamesh from Fate. Like, he would just be this walking armory, and which would be amazing, but probably not very viable and very practical.
Just on chronology alone, it makes 0 sense.
Like, he can't just pull out like 300, 400 different kinds of weapons in every scenario and pieces of armor and all this other shit. Like, it would be crazy. Like, that would be too many homages to.
Yeah, you can't just have him at the start of the Castlevania 3 story with the Crusagram. That's just no.
He would just be crushing everything.
Yes. Yeah, that would just break everything you're trying to do.
Yeah, you can't make Mary Sue's is what we're trying to say. So.
Exactly.
Then split 4 different plot lines that had been slapped together, and the writer didn't even have the courtesy of connecting them. The closest any of these stories gets to playing off each other is when Isaac looks into a magic mirror that displays an image of Hector in a prison cell. Because of this, it becomes even harder to follow what is going on and brings up another problem: the characters. One of the top things people always say when defending the show is when they scream from the rooftop, "Themes! Character arcs!" This is a common way that people defend terrible shows and movies.
No.
Themes in Castlevania?
Themes and character arcs.
You are the one who's complaining about the level of gore.
And even then, that's basic shit.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think what themes are bad. I'm just like, what?
Yeah, I'm just like, he's just changing the argument on a whim now.
I will argue there are many plot lines that are somewhat difficult to follow just because of the number, but that doesn't make them inherently bad. The one with Alucard's the weakest because it's just like a slice of life thing, and he's just lonely, which is kind of sad, but that's kind of what Alucard is. The tragic prince. He's supposed to be this aloof dude who killed his dad because his dad tried to kill everyone else, and he had to take up the burden. And now he's got this massive. Well, I don't know about the castle per se in the stories, because the video games sort of have the castle be destroyed and created every time Dracula comes back. So I don't know how that's going to work, but
that is just part of the ritual at this point.
Yeah.
They constantly talk about the
formula, I
character
would
arcs
say.
and themes as if they're bulletproof shields to defend against any criticism. The problem when
No.
defending Castlevania Season 3
really.
is that the character arcs are trash. This stems from the problem of killing Dracula off, and when all of
That doesn't. He kills his dad. He's broken on the
It's
inside.
Good drama. Good drama.
His two friends do the deed to help him out. He can't do it himself. He's too shaken up at that point. Even though he has all this gumption to do so, and then when he's faced with it, he's like stunned. I'm killing my dad. Because his dad realizes he's killing his son. It's that crazy...
He has a moment of clarity.
Yeah.
While this is all happening.
I wasn't expecting that for Dracula to go, what? I'm killing my boy. It's like he's a manic, he's a father for that brief moment. You're like, yeah, you are. You're killing everyone.
It makes sense because they're in Alucard's old nursery.
Yeah, that was a great idea. I didn't even think of that, to have Alucard's, bedroom as a boy, and I'm like, that would have been great in the games. I would have loved to have seen where he grew up and where he played and all the other wonderful little details we would have loved to have seen. Obviously, that's not a big deal for a Castlevania game because it's all about action and adventure. But to throw that in there makes perfect sense for Dracula to go, we made this room. Like my wife and I made this room. We had our son, we had our family, and I'm killing my boy. And it just dawns on him what he's doing. And
Also, Graham McTavish's voice acting in that scene really sells it.
oh yeah, he's great.
Yeah. That was good shit.
You can't say the death of Dracula is a bad thing. I just don't get it. That's stupid.
It shows that he just sees Dracula as this disconnected mythical figure that is Dracula and not what he is in this cartoon, which is a family man. He's everything. He's the king. He is the mythical figure, the all powerful, but he is also the family man. He is the husband. He is the father. He loves his boy. And he's just completely bonkers.
Yeah, out of all the storylines they could have chosen, honestly, there's not much to work with aside from Hector and Castlevania 3, Curse of Darkness, and like there's nothing. Like Castlevania is so decrepit of story because there's not much to it.
No, Curse of Darkness definitely won't work with the direction they're going now.
Yeah, you're right, because they totally threw in a lot of stuff. So
yeah, and this is the thing I do like about this show is that it shows the you could say the humanity, the humane side, and the actual character and the motivations of Dracula. And so he becomes relatable. He's not just the evil guy.
And his powers make sense, unlike frickin' Dracula, the BBC Dracula 2020.
that was a thing? I didn't even know that.
Is that the thing where the army blinds themselves with blindfolds?
What?
It's worse. It's Dracula Untold. This is the BBC Dracula with... Apparently, the twist at the end is he was never weak to sunlight. It was all a placebo. Like he thought because of cultural osmosis.
What?
I wish I were kidding.
That's dumb.
It's in the last episode is in modern day. Even though there's only 3 episodes. Tone shift.
It's
created
dumb.
this Tinder. They created this Tinder app so that he can pick up dates so he can eat them.
Wait, but do cameras not work like mirrors? Does he? Is this a Dracula? Is this a vampire who is reflected in mirrors or not?
I think he is, but he's a corpse in the mirrors.
Then that should also be, I think, also not work the same way with cameras and smartphones. So your Tinder profile should probably look like a corpse.
No, if it reminder that the only reason the whole thing about vampires not seeing their reflection is because of back then of the silver that was put into the mirrors.
Ah, didn't know that part.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
That's one of the well, it's just weird stuff. Like I think, like it's super weird and just utterly it also makes Abraham Van Helsing, the staunch Christian dude, an atheist nun.
Oh,
What?
okay.
Yeah,
Interesting.
and yeah, it's super weird. And like Dracula dies at the end by drinking cancer blood.
What?
What?
That's the ending.
Cancerous blood.
That's just
hell?
dumb.
That's retarded.
That could happen randomly
it's
at
like,
any
yeah,
point in
stupid
history.
It's like,
Yeah.
stupid shit.
Yeah, like he knows that she has blood, but he deliberately drinks cancer blood so that he can die.
Oh, okay.
We need to watch it. It's really funny.
Oh,
Oh,
Stare
God.
away. It's funny.
Anyway,
I don't know.
the only lore that was relevant to Dracula resurrecting to explain that was in the first game. Simon defeated him, I think, and they cut up his pieces. And then the monsters hid them away so that the spirit can come back. And in the second game, you have to
Yes.
collect them all again, reassemble them, and he
The reason why Simon collects them in the first place himself is because in some retconned version of the Castlevania 1 final boss, Simon gets arrogant in the battle, and right before Dracula dies, Simon gets slashed in the back, hence the curse placed on him, and he does the process of gathering the pieces of Dracula himself so that he can kill Dracula himself to remove the curse.
Okay, and then
I'm getting weird Egypt flashbacks.
after that, after the body is killed the second time, he has to burn it. But then the ashes get scattered, and the spirit is free again, and
the curse gets removed.
yeah. And then in the third game, it's the curse again for the family.
In 3, I mean, nowadays in hindsight, the reason why it comes back in 3 is because of the events of Lament of Innocence.
Oh right. Anyway,
3 is the first. The 3 is the first game after Lament of Innocence, which is a 500-year gap.
Oh dear. So
Yep.
yeah. So then in Symphony, there's a bunch of jump from between Rondo and a bunch of others. They have the same artifacts as like rings of Vlad and Heart of Vlad and this and that.
No. Yeah, it is the same. It is more or less the same process as in Simon's Quest.
Right. Okay. So that's
And Symphony and Symphony is a direct sequel to Rondo, like 4 years
Yeah.
after.
right because Maria grows up. She's a little girl in Rondo, and she grows up. Okay. Yeah.
Exactly.
So there is some lore. There is some explanation of how to kill Dracula. There's a process involved. It's not
Yes.
airtight, but it follows the same lines. Anyway.
Yeah, there's at least a logic to it that you can follow.
Yeah, it's not clear as hell, but it's there. It's just hard to follow.
Yeah, it's there.
Very, very unlike Dracula 2020.
Well, the less we talk about that, the better. Moving
Yeah.
on.
Characters go their own boring journeys. Dracula was the glue that held the narrative together and drove most of the plot forwards, and the characters...
No, the plot was driven by Sifa wanting to help these people and Belmont going along with her, and then they discover Alucard, and he's like, yeah, I gotta go stop my dad. And that's the plot. Not Dracula does want to kill people, but that's his own plot. He's got his own things going on.
The whole Dracula thing happens and it's in its own thread. It's in parallel to everything else.
Yeah.
who weren't Dracula, drove the rest of the plot when they tried to kill or betray Dracula. Because of this, the characters had specific goals and motivations that lined up together and made the story more palatable. With the death of Dracula, the character's motivations scattered into the wind, with some being ridiculously dumb and others being made for the sake of the precious character arcs. These feeble plot lines aren't helpful.
This is a great scene. This is the one I was talking about before. The priest who prays to the wrong god, or what he thinks is God. That was great.
But by the mentality to save the best for the next season. The crappy world building doesn't help with the bad character arcs either. A well-constructed world can spawn all sorts of compelling stories that drive the characters forwards and can be used to create all sorts of unique situations. This is why things like Star Wars and The Lord of the Rings are so popular. The worlds are in-depth and massive to the point that all the sorts of stories can be told. Castlevania has none of these traits.
It does, but it's not. People don't use it to tell stories. They use it to make games. You can easily take the Soma Cruz setting of the DS games and tell all kinds of stories because it's more modern. It's revitalized. You have some characters come back. So nothing's stopping someone from making stories, but the problem is because the lore is kind of not solid.
It's very aimed.
Yeah.
There's so many games and there's so much stuff. It's not really like nailed down. You can do it, but then you'll have to have an actual definitive book that does these stories. Say, okay, this is Castlevania. This is now the lore, and because it's owned by Konami and they're not going to let people touch it, it's never going to happen. I'm sure there are people out there that would love to read an actual young adult dark fantasy based off Castlevania. Why not? They have Portrait of Ruin that does a spin on things. There's other heroes that aren't Belmonts. There are magicians like Shinoa, who comes from one of the better or good cults that are trying to stop these resurrections from happening in her time frame. So there are stories like that. They're just not fleshed out as we would think of like a book would be fleshed out. So that's the point, to make video games.
Can be seen by the bare bones night creatures and focus on character arcs why they could easily have been building up a potentially interesting world. And since the world can't drive the narrative forwards, this series has...
Yeah, settings don't do that. Characters drive stories. You can't have a setting that has a bunch of creatures in it unless they have plots to drive. Like, maybe there's a horde of demons coming from hell. That would be a plot. But you need a central character to personify that. And just because an old villain is dead doesn't mean you can't have new villains. So all he's really saying here is that he doesn't like the new villains in Season 3, which is a good argument. You can make that up. You can make all sorts of arguments why there's so many characters, they're not as good. This is almost like arguing that Game of Thrones is just hard to follow. But once you follow one plot line, like, hey, that was pretty good. Why is it good? Tell us why. We can say the storyline with the four sisters isn't that good. The vampire sisters, or the whatever you call that. Not very tight.
Definitely
Vampire
a whole lot
cat
of
ladies.
setup for stuff to come.
Yeah, but it makes logical sense that there would be a power vacuum, and then you'd have other vampires vying for that power vacuum. Makes perfect sense. Is it the best way of expressing that idea? Probably not. It's very slow.
Compelling? Is it compelling? Not necessarily. Does it do stuff?
Yeah, it's a bit weak. I'll admit to that, but it's not bad. It's not horrible. It's just slow. And to me, slow is something you could easily fix, or pacing is something you could easily fix. But that
at least doesn't have the line, "Have you had sexual intercourse with Count Dracula?"
Yeah.
in the first 5 minutes.
What? What? No, that's stupid.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, okay.
Exactly. That's the comparison we're working with here.
Oh,
This is good Dracula by comparison.
yeah.
Nowhere to go. The writers are even aware of this, because they showed how they're going to resurrect Dracula in Season 3. Actually, this world needs a lot of work fixing it. The end of Season 3 had Trevor and Sifa discover trophies of the mayor collected from the dead kids.
Oh, that
This
was
could
the
have been
scene
more
where they messed up. Wait. That was where the guards are running. I remember that. That's the scene where they mess up the layers and the one guard is running behind the outhouse in the back. Can go back? Go back. You can see it frame by frame.
Actually, this world needs a lot of work fixing it. The end of Season 3 had Trevor and Sifa discover...
Yeah. Did you see it?
What, the...
Go frame by frame. Go backwards.
All right.
What, the guys?
Yeah, go back.
aware of this,
Okay,
because
now
they
go.
showed how they're going to resurrect Dracula in Season 3. Actually, this world needs a
Oh
lot...
yeah, stop. You,
Oh
I
my
think
God.
if you hit the point key,
I'll slow it down.
it should do frame by frame forward.
Oh shit.
Point
Oh,
doesn't
God.
do that. Oh, it doesn't point. I'm sorry. One of these keys is go forward frame by frame. Maybe someone in the chat knows the hotkey.
Doesn't matter. It's the yellow one.
Netflix
It's
and
the
pretty
right
much
and left.
every other streaming service, how they're going to resurrect Trevor and Sifa discover...
Okay, so you're saying these sticks over here is not properly... Whatever.
Oh, that's my mistake. I thought this was some little guardhouse in the back, but I think it's some candle holder in the front. Because I never really saw the chain it's hanging off of. So to me, it always looked like some weird guardhouse.
Okay.
And I have to take my complaint back. Damn.
All right.
I thought it wasn't. I thought this was an animation layer error.
All right.
trophies of are collected from the dead kids. This could have been more impactful if...
Okay, wait a second. If he's saying the creepy scene where he goes in the back room and he sees all his shoes was not impactful,
That seems creepy.
that is
Just
really
sets up the-
gross.
well, it's set up early in an episode where it's just like, should go and grab these apples in the specific place, and it's just like, oh, cute. And then you realize, oh no, this guy's a psychopath and he's been murdering, sending kids to be in the spike hole because he hates kids.
Yeah.
Only the kids that really annoy him, which is every kid.
all the kids are dead. They keep disappearing. Like, what the hell? It's not because of Dracula. It's because of this crazy mayor. And he keeps their shoes.
By
It's the
Draco.
weirdest thing.
By Jason Isaacs from Harry Potter and
Yeah, what-
the best Captain Hook.
What I didn't understand is why Belmont and Cypher just burned the evidence instead of telling the people, hey, by the way, this is the guy who killed all your kids.
Well, they did set it up properly. It was foreshadowed. He had that key always on his desk. It was always in the scene. You're like, what is this? It's a very good Chekhov's gun. It's like, what is this key for a door? What is this back room that he's always looking at? Like, what is that?
Yeah, it's okay, but I don't understand why in the end they burned the evidence.
Yeah, I know. They
makes
hated it
sense.
so
Probably
much.
because everyone's dead.
Yeah, but
Because
don't you
everyone's
want to
dead,
give the
he's
parents
dead, so it doesn't
closure?
matter.
You fucking assholes.
Well, everyone's dead, so why does it matter? Parents are probably dead. What does it matter?
Only the rest of the world wasn't strutting how edgy it is. The scene where Sypha and Trevor discover that room with children's shoes could have been heavy, but with all this lazy, dark stuff that permeates the narrative, it loses the impact it could have because this world is always dark.
Wait a second.
What?
No.
That's a completely
How is
different
it
level
dark,
of
but-
darkness. Because you have
It's
the
a different kind of
demonic
darkness.
entities that just got everyone, and on the other side you have a human that's a monster.
And that's
It's-
just
and
one
it's
of the
actually like-
monsters.
Yeah, and that
It's
human,
kind of-
that human can be so bad that it's on the same level,
In that
if
town.
not worse than the beast.
Yeah, in that town you had
It's
that.
also
Go ahead, Dunn.
it's also subtle evil. It's also subtle evil as opposed
Yeah,
to in your face evil.
Yeah,
and
you-
it's malicious. It's planned. There's a long. He had to set up those traps. That was hard work.
then he has to take the shoes off the kids after going down into the pit, and it's just like, this dude's really creepy.
Yeah, this is an amazing. You need to. He had to dig out these holes, make all these stakes, put them in there, climb in and out, after a kid fell in, he has to clean the trap and set it again. This is a lot of work. It's a damn lot of work. And that is all premeditated. All these demons here, they're basically beasts. Yes, they are horrible. They kill humans and in very horrible ways, but they're mostly mindless.
Right, but then you also had that cult, which was creepy as hell, writing sigils on houses for some reason. What the hell are they doing? And it's just this freaky ritual that just lights everyone on fire. So the blood of all these people can fuel this gateway just to get this creature called Dracula back. Everyone in this town is damned. Like, everyone's gonna die. So, oh god, it was just nuts.
Yeah, so those are all different levels, different type.
Very Lovecraftian. There's definitely a lot of Lovecraft
Different types
themes.
of darkness.
Yeah.
It's very Lovecraftian.
So to argue that it's too dark, therefore this is not dark enough, or it's like, dude.
And I don't see how you can make the argument that because there's some dark stuff in this area, it makes the dark stuff in the other area not impactful.
If his basis of comparison is like, we need something light to make the dark stand out more, and it's Yu-Gi-Oh.
You know what I see? You know what I see? You have this horrible world with these horrible demons, and despite that, the humans are no better. There are human monsters that just there's no hope. That tells you there is no hope. That makes the world worse.
Yeah,
you don't need a light to contrast that. That's just everyone is this horrible.
Which reflects the simple, like the very limited dialogue we get in Symphony of the Night of like, remember that stupid "Die, monster! You don't belong in this world." and he's like,
Yes.
I'm here because humans want to pay me tribute. I don't want to be here. Like, they brought me here. It's not my job. So it's this idea that humanity is evil. I'm just their king of evil. That's what I'm doing. So.
I'm just sitting here filing the paperwork.
Yeah, he's on his throne, just like let all the monks do it. Let all the mooks, the monks, the flying creatures,
All the monsters.
Yeah, they'll take care of everything. I'll just sit back and just drink blood or whatever.
Let Shaft and Death do it.
Yeah, when is Shaft? That's gonna be. When is Shaft gonna show up? Like 100 years later, when Richter and Maria are all adults or whatever.
No, it's not. It's not even the ghost of Shaft. It's the ghost of Shaft. Remember that.
Oh God. Yeah.
This is this. By the way, this guy, this mayor of that town. That's a great. It's a perfect reflection of this famous line that was memed to oblivion and back. What is a man but a miserable pile of secrets? Perfectly fits that character.
Out of all those crazy lines, that was the most memorable line.
Yeah, but it describes this character.
Oh yeah. No, he was. I think the depiction of Dracula in the animation was fantastic. He was a bit too tall, but that was that's fine. He's larger than life. It's fine.
It's fine. Stylistic.
Yeah.
I wish I could like this show more. I wish I could like this show more.
Yeah.
It's like Clone Wars. There's other problems, big problems, but there's a lot to like about it, and there's a lot to like about this one. Just wish that the stuff that's I can't stand wasn't in there.
Hey guys, before you leave, please share this video because it was a lot of work to make, and I'm gonna stop here for now.
Okay, if this was a lot of work,
You're done?
He made so many voice errors where you recorded his voice improperly and he just kept it in. That happened like 4 times throughout this video.
At least he was. At least I could understand him, unlike the other guy yesterday who was just mumbling all the time. And it didn't even have proper sentence structure, let alone punctuation.
Oh boy.
This script is taking a while to make, and I have other videos
You
that I want
scripted
to
this?
do. And
Oh yeah. Oh, for sure. Because he was saying things, and he was saying it slowly. They had to start again. Did you hear that?
No, I didn't sleep much. I ran out of sleep meds. I have a giant headache, and yeah, I have pathetic excuses. I don't notice everything right now. So if I make mistakes, just correct me.
We got to get you some drugs to help you out there. But don't worry.
That would be. I would very much appreciate that.
Okay, well, I'll hook you up.
Powerful drugs.
Well, they're not that powerful, but there is some expensive stuff which is not what you want. You want the healthy. Put you up for a few hours.
I tried the expensive pharmacy stuff, and oh god, that's just bullshit. That's just knockout crap that makes all the other symptoms I have worse. And then and it does knock me out, yeah. But it's 2 hours later, I'm just wide awake in bed and ready to jump up and fight the lion. That's not sleep. What the fuck is the sleep? I'm supposed to be knocked out cold for 8 hours. And then it's just, 2 hours. Okay. What am I supposed to do now? I can't take more of that.
Oh, boy.
That happens to me, too, because I just have to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night. It's just like, come on, what is wrong with my body?
All right, we got...
I know what's wrong with mine, but...
we got... more than a minute, so I think he's just talking about his channel. I bet, I don't know, but
no, let him go on. I want to hear this.
I don't want to waste any more time talking about this trash fire. Between all the lazy, poorly conceived plot lines, the lack of world building, priorities to set up another season, it's over-eagerness to be
lack of world building.
The whole regular plot was world building.
It's the setting, pretty much.
That's if. The whole thing is world building.
Man, the whole. Oh, let's look at the old archive museum thing of the Belmonts. That's world building.
There was an entire series of village that Isaac goes to, that is just covered with corpses, all from a necromancer. There's all this history behind that. He talks to that old woman who's in a hut leading between towns, and she's telling him the history. It's like, dude. That was good. What was wrong with that scene? It was slow, but it's still a good scene.
Dark and the stupid mistreatment of some potentially awesome monsters. No, I'm not going to get over that. I just want to get this...
Which monsters?
Over it. It's petty. Over it. It's petty. They all look like bat things.
Maybe he just wanted to see more cool villain things.
I don't know. Maybe he's one of those fans who love the bestiary more in the games than the actual, I don't know, adventuring.
I can understand that notion.
Oh, it's cool, but...
You should probably be more upfront with it.
Yeah. Like, the Grand Falloon was just too much, I thought. That was just gigantic. But it makes sense that there would be a necromancer who can control that, but it's not as cool as it was in the game because it's like this room full of corpses. And they just kept manipulating like some weird telekinetic, but this ends up being this crazy looking, I don't know, worm creature in the center. And you're like, what the heck is that?
It's called Legion.
Legion. I like Grand Falloon just because that's a term that what's that writer? Kurt, I think it was Vonnegut. I think came up with that term, and that was a brilliant term. Whoever got that must have really knew his Kurt Vonnegut or whatever. But then they changed it to Legion in the DS games.
Video done. Also, why are all these critics giving this crap 10 out of 10s when there are other, better shows that deserve the spotlight? Just stay away from Season 3 for your own good. I don't think I was able to properly explain why this show sucks. I have a whole lot of things that I hate, and I wasn't able to talk about all of them because my internet sucks, and it will take me days to upload if I keep on going about this show. Also, I'm pretty bad at writing these critical essays on the fact that I'm just getting into it. So, like my first Xenoblade Chronicles 2 video, I might need to come back at some later
No,
date
you
to
don't.
fix
Please
this.
don't do so.
Anyways, have a good day, and please share this video with
let your
others.
channel die and
I
never
want to know
come
if
back.
people
No. I didn't hear what he last said, but it's great that he has that he admits that he's not good at this yet, that he's new to this. It's great. If you see this, whatever
Still
you
not
may
an
think
excuse
we
for
were harping on, it's not meant in the mean way, but just there are reasons to criticize this show, but it's not the ones you mentioned. I'm not giving it a 10 out of 10, far from it. There are things to like about it, but your criticism, I don't think it has much merit. I think that's your criticism was very subjective. But please don't do Xenoblade. Please don't do Xenoblade. If you do it like this, please don't do Xenoblade.
Well, apparently he also dislikes. Let me see his channel. Blood of Zeus is garbage, and here is why. It's like, oh boy,
it's not an anime.
Blood of Zeus is fine.
That's pretty much been your whole thing throughout this entire podcast. Like it's just not anime.
Yeah, but with Blood of Zeus, it especially pisses me off because Netflix advertises it as a Netflix original anime, and then shows Western cartoon animation. And so, what the fuck are you doing? This is false advertisement. False advertisement because they know that the term anime brings some popular weight with it.
And it brings all the weebs with them.
You know what? I think we have enough clips from this stream for someone to do a highlight. Call it "It's Not Anime." It's like when someone did I don't remember which video it was that you guys covered, but it was like one of you guys was driving, and there was a little bit of road rage in there. It's like someone did a highlight of that.
Oh, that was Berserker. Berserker was in his car. It was
Berserker, yeah.
And I think Zach was. Zach and myself were listening to him, and oh dear, yeah.
Yeah, you guys just let it play out.
It's like, please stop driving, please. Oh, boy.
I honestly can't wait till April 1st when Mooper finally drops his thing. I look forward to Mooper's critiques, don't you?
I mean, let me check which day
is that
April
Gedelb?
Fools is this year.
Oh, it's about a month to the next Gedelb episode.
Yeah.
At least something to look forward to.
All right, guys. I think we've exhausted this topic. Still, Castlevania, Ritual of the... What is it? Sorry, what's the name of that? Jeez, I own the game. I haven't touched it because...
Ritual of the Night?
Ritual of the Night. These are great games.
Ritual of the Night, yeah.
They are fun. They are detailed. They are long to play. They're fantastic. They are the originator of the Metroidvania style, for at least medieval style magic games. They're side-scrolling. They're fun. They're great. And to get an animated version of that, I think, is a good homage. It's a good taste for people who don't know these things, and fans of it will love it. Obviously not as much as some of us, but, that's fine. I don't take Castlevania seriously. It's not supposed to be. Trying to make it like this super adult, gory thing is like, yeah, it's fine. But it's always been in the B movie genre in my mind. So it's
that is literally the entire inspiration for Castlevania in the first place. The classic monster movie stuff.
Yeah. I love that sort of that niche, weird, kitschy, not quite polished, not quite highbrow, just this weird, fun slasher flick adventure, but you play as a cool dude, or the line of a history of vampire hunters or whatever. So it's always been fun. Try not to take it too seriously. Yes, critique the animation, critique the quality, critique all the things that come out to you, but don't take it too seriously. That's all I say.
It was never meant to be highbrow. Like Game of Thrones was clearly meant to be somewhat highbrow to a certain extent. Yes.
All right, gentlemen. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it. Wisp, as always, we enjoy your wonderful commentary and passionate outcries about.
Do you?
Oh yeah, they're great. They're fun.
As if it wasn't evident enough from how many times he said it's not anime.
It's not anime.
Just get off my lawn.
Yeah.
At least he didn't say. At least he didn't ask. Have you had sexual intercourse with Count Dracula?
Human intercourse.
Oh, please stop. Okay.
What a horrible night to have a curse.
Okay, that's a good way to end it. Good way to end it.